Kubelik in the morning. Glad to be with you. Monday, September 30th, 8 a.m. right here on Jocks 94.5. It's going to be a fun one. What a fun weekend of college football we had with what some are calling the greatest college football game they have ever seen. Alabama 41, Georgia 34. Tide moves to 4-0 in the season. Bulldogs go to 3-1. A lot more action around the state as well as around the SEC and in college football top to bottom. But, Greg, you were there in Tuscaloosa. You got to take it in. Describe the environment for us.
It was just amazing. Have not been to a game as a fan since 2015. The last one I was able to go to, where I had no responsibilities, no work whatsoever, was when LSU came to town, and Leonard Fournette was held to 32 yards on 19 carries. So it's been a while since I'd been there, and it was just amazing, absolutely amazing. The ebbs and flows, I think, as a fan, to see them start the way they started was outrageous. But it never felt like, all right, this thing's over. At least it didn't for me. I know that program at Georgia too well. I knew that there'd be some tweaks made, and sure enough, it came down to it. Now, I think that they'd climb all the way back and at one point take the lead? No, I didn't anticipate that because the stars kind of had to align for that to happen. But it was an incredible performance. You got to see just how good Kalen DeBoer is in the week leading up and on game day with his team and how they execute in a big game environment. But I do think that, hey, the way they finished was exactly kind of a coach's dream. Hey, things that need to be – you don't want to run too far away from them because then you have the rat poison. But now, with having looked very human at times in the second half, that's when you can really coach them up and you'll probably really have their attention.
And it was an incredible start for Alabama, and I don't think anybody thought it would go that direction or go that way and be that dominant that early and essentially feel like the game was put away. You give Georgia a ton of credit, Kirby a ton of credit for altering some of the plan, going to some different things, and being able to just battle back in, getting off the mat, so to speak. There's a lot of teams that they would have mailed it in. Maybe not second half, Greg, but, second quarter would have shut that thing down just because it felt like it was so far out of reach. And honestly, didn't feel like Georgia was going to be able to find any answers defensively to what Alabama had.
Well, I don't know about you. I really didn't like Georgia's plan at all defensively. I don't know what they were thinking. In the second half, they played basically base defense. Like, okay, they brought a few pressures, but it felt like in the first half, all they did was pressure. It was over and over, and it's like missed tackle here, over pursuit here, player out of position here. It's almost like Kirby and their defensive staff said, here's what we got to do, guys. We got to come out of the gates, and we need our defense to make some plays and to put the pressure on them, because if we go in there and allow them to just methodically move down the field, we'll never take the crowd out of it, and that's when it's going to become really tough. So it's almost like they came in like, we got to throw knockout punches from the beginning. We're going to bring pressures. We're going to bring twists. We're going to bring stunts. We're going to lose contain. It was probably the worst I'd ever seen Malachi Starks play in the first half of the football game. Guy's an all-world safety. He's an incredible all-American caliber player, future first-round pick. He was a mess all over the place, missing tackles, not at locating the football. I thought their linebackers struggled to locate the football. They were just way too aggressive in the first half, and Bama, it's almost like they were anticipating it with some of the quick throws. They got the ball out of Jalen's hands quickly. They ran the ball and were able to outflank him on the perimeter with some of their scheme and formation. It was amazing.
It was, and a couple bad angles from Starks. But like you said, Greg, the first thing that stuck out to me watching it back yesterday was, we've mentioned those edge defenders. They get really aggressive in this defense. For some reason, the last 2 years, I feel like that it's become less responsible and more aggressive, and they paid for it. A couple linebackers over the top, over pursue, like you would say. It just guys not in the right spots. Still playing hard, playing aggressive, but just not in the right spots. And I felt like when you got about middle second quarter, maybe a little bit later, when Jalen Milroe started hitting some of the intermediate throws off of Georgia's first adjustment, that's when I thought to myself, I don't know what the counterpunch is here for them. Because if they're going to hit the quarterback runs on the perimeter, the traditional run game wasn't really going. It wasn't there. But if they're going to hit the quarterback runs and they're going to have a hard time defending those, And then on top of that, Milroe can hit the intermediate stuff because I mean he had a couple where he just like spit him out sidearm to the right, like over the middle of the field, and he was accurate on them and he was hitting them. I mean, if he can dink and dunk you and then he can hit you with that run game, I don't know what the counter was at that point because you knew the shot plays were coming at some point. You're going to get those, and that's when I thought, man, this offense might not be stoppable tonight.
Well, yeah, no, I think Jalen played a masterful game. I mean, as good as he's ever played by a pretty decent margin. I mean, he's had some great moments, obviously, in an Alabama uniform, but that was by far his best game. I also thought that some of the stuff they did with the motions, like they knew Georgia's coverages, they knew Georgia's coverage tells, they had the correct beaters called. They had man beaters called when Georgia played man. They had zone beaters called when Georgia played zone. They had blitz beater called when Georgia played blitz. I mean, they were just a step ahead. I mean, they were really I don't know if you can call a better offensive game in the first half of that football game. I mean, really, outside of, all right, a pretty unfortunate interception, there was very little that was done wrong. Thought Georgia, here's the other thing about Georgia. I didn't even think, there were guys on the team called that didn't play well. Like it's not like Bama had an offensive performance where every single guy was just 10 out of 10. Because there are guys, one along the offensive line in particular, that I didn't think played very well at all. Got swam a couple times, gave up a couple pressures, got beat a couple times. I thought did not do a good job of bending at his knees. The guy played a little high and bent over, and as a result, some of those athletic defensive tackles went right around him. Like, based on Bama's, it's not like Bama played great, and yet it was still perfectly played game, perfectly executed with what Georgia was in to take advantage of what they had. It was just really, really well done. Really, really well done. So, curious your thoughts on the offensive plan along the offensive line, because there were some really bright spots. I thought the tackles played well. I thought Booker played pretty well.
I was going to say right
hung in there. I thought Jaden struggled. Yeah, I mean, I just don't. But to have a guard struggle like that and still play well is pretty dang impressive.
There's no doubt. And I thought Booker had a really nice game. I thought Proctor had a pretty good game, physical game. And I will give that group credit. They got after it. And
heck yeah, they got after it. Even when they had misses, they were still grinding. Like I really respected the group. I got a ton of respect for the group, and I got a ton of respect for Jaden. He just got swam a couple times, which guess what? It's Georgia. It happens.
Yeah.
Like, it's not,
but there were a couple, Greg,
middle,
like I said on the
Tennessee.
show. I said on this show Friday that I thought Warren Brinson was the most important player that might not go that they needed, and he did some good things. He was in the backfield a couple times, but there were a couple double teams where he was moved off the football, and that's where my eyes kind of got big, and I thought to myself, man, like that's their anchor. That's the guy that is supposed to be the immovable object in the middle. And there were a couple of times that they were moving him out of his gap. Now, one of those was kind of a down block, double team, like a little slam technique. But then one was just kind of an inside zone where, I mean, they had him off the ball. There's a backside of an inside zone one time. It wasn't 97, but I mean, you had a defensive lineman. I think the ball was snapped on the 4 and he was in the end zone. So that group was going, and they got at it. And it was a historic day for Jalen Milroe, and did some things that honestly have just never been done. I'll take you through just a couple of kind of what he did, how special it was, because it was beyond Heisman worthy. Are we allowed to talk about that now? Is it past your 10 commandment time?
No, we can't. I had a buddy that was watching the game with. It's like, what do you think about the Heisman? I'm like, don't say it. Not saying it.
October.
Can't do it.
We have to wait for that. Okay.
We'll November is when we'll talk about
November.
the Heisman.
Okay.
But I like you said, it was kind of like, I know statistically, and you'll go through what made it. First time for this. I know where you're going with it, but it was like one of those career-defining performances. Like we all have one, right? Well, the ones that like you have that game where just you can't miss. And it's a career-defining game, and it's a legacy maker, and that to me was Jalen's performance. He plays like that they will not be beat. I'd like to have seen a little bit better execution in the second half, but I didn't think that was really on him. I think it was really more circumstantial, and they kind of got away from some of the things that were working really well for him. But it was a career definer for sure.
Oh, there's no doubt. First, I'll say about your HVAC system. It's one of your largest investments. This time of year, constantly being pushed to the extreme. You could trust a Trane home comfort system to give you reliability and peace of mind day in, day out for years to come. Visit Trane.com to find a comfort specialist near you. And remember, it's hard to stop a Trane. Jalen Milroe, record-setting performance against Georgia. Won some things that we've just flat out never seen. First player in AP poll history with 300 passing yards, 100 rushing yards, 2 rush touchdowns against a top 5 opponent. First SEC player in SEC history with 350 passing yards, 100 rush yards to complete 80% or better in a single game. He is also now the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy that we're not allowed to talk about per ESPN bet at plus 225, entered the day at plus 700. A lot of the reasons you say he couldn't miss, Greg, was because of Ryan Williams. 6 for 177, both career highs. I mean, it's almost getting to be beyond description, some of the things that he's doing. And it's not even so much the catches, it's after the catches, which are just completely insane.
Everyone's going to marvel at the 75-yard touchdown that basically won the game. To me, the more impressive play, and watching it back yesterday on the tape, because you got the feel in the stadium just how cool it was, for sure. But the one where he was really, I mean, it was well covered. Jalen's getting hit, has to fling a post out there, probably 30, 40 yards. I don't know exactly how far. Anyways, I mean, it's well covered. It's well defended. He somehow not just tips it up, but adjusts his body, bends backwards to locate it. Somehow, but with insane body control, able to reel it in. I mean, I'm telling you, I've never seen. Here's the thing about it, and I said this to just some friends and some buddies, and this has kind of been my thought. It's one thing if a guy shows up and he's Megatron day one. You know what I mean? When they just look different. Like, sure. When Julio showed up, the same Julio that played in the Super Bowl, and at that time I think he was the best receiver in the sport. Physically, he looked the exact same when he showed up as a freshman in Tuscaloosa. This guy doesn't look like that. You know, so he does it by purely being crafty. He can't overpower players. He has a strange sixth sense knack of locating the football, body control, adjustment, timing things like when the ball's in the air, how late. I mean, because the earlier you move, the more the quicker the receiver or the defender can kind of turn around and make a play on the ball himself. He turns at the last second and turns with such urgency that the defender can never recover. The guy is the best freshman receiver I've ever seen. And I honestly, that says a lot because I thought Amari Cooper would never be topped as far as best freshman receiver. I didn't think it was possible. And this guy's better. It's just insane. Absolutely insane.
Well, here's the crazy part about it. When you were referencing Julio and talking about Julio and kind of what he was, how he was built, I said, you mean Jeremiah Smith, basically, is what you're talking about. The freshman receiver.
Yeah, and who's great. And Julio,
6'3", 215.
I don't know
and yeah,
correct. I don't know if Julio was as ready at that point. I think Jeremiah Smith, because of the kids nowadays. I mean, they go to prep school, you know. So Julio wasn't as polished as Jeremiah Smith was as a freshman. Still a freak, but yes, built like that. You're 100% right. It's a good comparison.
And I was also thinking best freshman wide receiver ever. This kid's going to be in the mix for that too. I mean, back-to-back one-handed catches on a single drive for Ohio State over the week. I mean, I'm going to tell you, between Ryan Williams, Jeremiah Smith, Dylan Stewart at South Carolina, and I got to see Colin Simmons at Texas up close and personal this week.
Yeah, how was that?
These freshmen are different, dude. They're
different, dude.
It's like you said, they're going to prep school. They're working fundamentals and drills, you know, at an earlier age. It's unbelievable. You and I said this 3 weeks ago that we had never seen a freshman with the array of moves and the flexibility and the handwork as a pass rusher that Dylan Stewart has. Like what the things you
No.
just said about Ryan Williams as a freshman, never seen it. I know a lot of folks in our part of the country have not been introduced to Colin Simmons yet. I mean, he's physically like he's not a freshman. He's just not. It's like
Yeah.
you're not supposed to be built that way and be able to move like that as a freshman. It's not. It's not supposed to happen that way. And this Jeremiah Smith kid's same way at Ohio State.
Right.
It's wild, man. Just kind of not just like the production, but physically where some of these kids are.
I'm telling you, the best freshman I've ever seen in my own two eyes, and I don't think anyone will ever quite top Adrian Peterson as a freshman. Would you agree? Maybe there's
That was
another
pretty
one
next
that's
level,
escaping
yeah.
me. Adrian Peterson was the best freshman I've ever seen. Like, but I'm telling you, after seeing him in person, not trying to be a prisoner of the moment, I promise you, I know it's a different position. It's a less physical position. Adrian, I think, went for nearly 2K his freshman year and should have won the Heisman, but that time freshmen didn't win Heisman trophies. I'm telling you, Ryan Williams he could be on his way to becoming like one of the best freshmen ever. Like, he's that good. And the guy's just getting started. I mean, it's just he made great defensive backs look, and they look like high school kids the other day. It's just insane. He's unbelievable.
The end zone, just for and people like the tight copy of the one down the sideline, the spin move, it gives you a totally
Oh my
different
God.
depiction of it because you realize that one of the DBs is in position to make that play, and he just almost falls down on himself. It's yeah. Well, we got plenty of time to talk about it. 800-239-9569. You guys want to get in at Mac and Q? Tweet into the show. Auburn goes down to Oklahoma. We're going to talk about that one a lot. 27-21. Tigers go to 2-3. Sooners 4-1. Paul Feinbaum is with us after our next break. Laura Rutledge was on sideline for this game. She's with us at 8. Tyler Watts is in the radio booth. He's with us at 9 because if this game is what some people are describing, we need to spend some time on it today, and we will. And we'll start that next with Feinbaum right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Kubalik in the morning. 8:20 Monday, September 30th. Jocks 94.5. Appreciate you tuning in. It was described as the greatest SEC game he has ever seen yesterday. We'll see if after marinating on that for 24 hours, Paul Feinbaum feels the same way. He joins us each and every week at this time thanks to our friends at Craneworks.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, Craneworks, Rentalworks, yeah! The big dog's got it.
Paul Feinbaum on Mac and Cube in the morning is brought to you by Craneworks. Lift it, buy it, rent it, the big dog's got it. Now, Paul Feinbaum.
All right, Paul, we all heard and saw your description of Alabama, Georgia yesterday. You've had a day to sort of sleep on it, think about it. You still ranking this at the top of your list as the greatest SEC game you've ever seen?
Yeah, I think I probably should have said one of them, but you know how it is. You get caught up in the moment. But I was just mesmerized by the swings of emotion. But listen, there have been more consequential games. As I said that, I started to remember the Kick Six game and so many others where literally a three-peat was on the line. So, no, I probably overshot the runway by a minute, but I think in the moment it just seemed like one of those games that, and it's primarily because not only the scene, the atmosphere, the expectations, but the swings in the game were just breathtaking, as everyone knows.
It was amazing, Paul, and I'm just curious from your perspective. It's one of those games where I think both teams can kind of feel good about it. I never in a million years thought the outcome of a Bama-Georgia game would be one in which there's a moral victory given. But that's kind of where Georgia's at, because the fight there in the second half and the playmaking and the risk-taking and the fourth down conversions, them walking out of the stadium, I don't think they can hang their head nearly as bad as I thought they were going to. So from Georgia's perspective, what's the reaction for Kirby? And do you think there's any fallout from this performance?
I don't think there is fallout, and I think the reaction from him deep down is I really like what I saw. That's the team I've been trying to get to all year long. And Greg, everybody said it before the game. They start slow, and they can't do that. He's got to figure that out. But I really liked what I saw from them in the second half. And, yeah, as you both know, the hardest thing in the world is to come from way back and get over the hump. And usually when you do, you're going to win the game. And in this case, it just took one play to undo that. But it was a play of epic proportions. So I think he looks at this. The only problem Kirby Smart has now is a game of math. We all knew he had a margin of error of 2, and now that is probably shrinking. But if you had said Kirby Smart to get to the final game of this, to get to the postseason after losing a game, all you have to do is lose one more game and you're in the playoffs, he would probably say, you know what, that's pretty good, especially for a school that hasn't lost in 3 years. So I think Kirby Smart's feeling pretty good today in spite of everything.
Paul Feinbaum with us, thanks to Craneworks this time each and every week. I don't know where you were on Kalen DeBoer heading into this game, needing this win, pressure, anything like that, but how do you view him now? What it should be different about how the college football world views Kalen DeBoer as opposed to 3 days ago?
Well, I think they viewed him as somebody who was superb at Washington, but now you add a win over Kirby Smart. And I think what's really interesting, Cole, is you add that win over Kirby Smart to 2 over Sarkisian, and I think it's 3 over Dan Lanning. And it's hard to compile a record like that. We're speaking of almost Saban-like edges against big-time opponents. So, I mean, I don't want to overshoot it. And, I was joking with somebody yesterday saying, hey, this looks even better than Saban. Yeah, you say that jokingly. But in some ways, they're a looser team, and they are playing so well. So, I went from thinking Alabama was a playoff team to now Alabama is in incredibly strong shape. It's ridiculous to get hung up on the national championship right now because nobody knows how this playoff is going to work. But but clearly Alabama it could not be in better shape. And I mean, I've watched every transition from Paul Bryant, and this one has been seamless.
Yeah, I don't know, Paul. I mean, look, I know prisoner of the moment. On game day, I'm not sure that this group isn't better coached at all 10 different positions. And look, Saban's the best.
Oh boy,
Saban's the best. I'm telling you. But on game day, this staff is unbelievable. They're unbelievable. Seriously, I mean, Saban's the greatest coach of all time. But this staff around him in the latter years was not as good. It just wasn't. Saban's the best ever. No one's ever put it. But this staff is so thoughtful and so good, and the details are so accounted for that I just think it's the staff as much as it is Kalen that has just done an amazing job in the transition, like you said.
And that was the one thing I had people tell me, watch out for. I mean, I felt good about the staff, but listening to guys like you. But, I mean, there were some old codgers out there that said this staff does not measure up to Kirby's staff and the other staffs. But they do, and they did. And I think particularly, Greg, to your point, this is a better staff than what we saw the last couple of years of Nick Saban. Not in the middle of the run or even 7 or 8 years ago,
right.
but since I'd say 18, 19, when the staff started really hitting harder times, this is with the exception of Sarkisian in there, this is spectacular. And I think that to me is the biggest surprise, because I didn't really know what to believe, and you can't help but believe what you see now.
Paul, I feel like we could go an entire hour with just this game, but I want to get to a couple of other things. Oklahoma takes down Auburn on the road, 27-21. The Tigers fall at Jordan-Hare Stadium. They're 2-3 after a month of football at home, and every one of us involved in the college football media having a full understanding that they needed to come out of this first month in real positive ways based on what was next. What does the future of Auburn look like for the rest of this season and potentially beyond after how they lost that game Saturday?
I hate to say that I came away on one level impressed, but I did like what I saw in many ways. But you can't scrape away adjectives and platitudes for just one of the worst months of Auburn football I can remember. There's no sugarcoating it. There's no getting around it, and all stems to a decision that Hugh Freeze made in the offseason that we all know about. But it is boomeranged on him, and I don't see a path for Auburn the rest of the way. The schedule is simply too insurmountable. I really thought in July they would be undefeated heading into the Georgia game. They have 3 losses now, and I mean, they're going to have to pull some stunning upsets to even have a mediocre season. I don't think that's possible. So when this season ends, assuming that what the predictors say is true, Hugh Freeze has some serious problems. I felt going into the game, Cole, being down there, everyone was on the right. The fans were on the same page. I talked to some people on Friday night. No one was selling Hugh Freeze out. Check back in a few weeks when a few more losses start to pile up.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the next 3 on the road are no picnic. Georgia, we know how that game is and how tough that game is when it's not in Bryant-Denny. We already knew that Missouri's a good football team. I think they can get that one, to be honest with you. But I don't know. I don't feel great about them against Kentucky anymore. They are a handful. I'm telling you, that team is a real handful. I actually have some positive takeaways for Auburn fans if you're listening. I don't think the sky is falling. Watching it back, there are shades of brilliance in there as well. So just hang in there with me. And I'm not trying to put lipstick on a pig. It's a pig, no doubt, but it can be better. Let's also talk about Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin seemingly, there's always a game or two, Paul, that just, what the heck is that? And this was that. First drive of the game right down the field, and then they couldn't do much offensively the rest of the way. And if not for a miraculous 4th down conversion, this game might not have even been the way it was. Like, it's just crazy. But how does this continue to happen? And is Ole Miss just the same old Ole Miss that they've always been now?
There's no way to say they're not, Greg, because I didn't think they were. I thought they had changed. The problem now is, as you look at Ole Miss and Georgia, one suffered a loss against what's now the number one team in the country. The other one lost at home. The calculus is far worse for Ole Miss. That Patsy schedule did not help them when they played a physical team, and I think they have a really very difficult path right now to the playoffs. And if they don't get to the playoffs, it creates a whole nother sideshow and side story about Lane Kiffin and his commitment to Ole Miss and whether or not he would consider leaving.
What is there? You mentioned earlier, Paul, with Georgia, that we knew what their margin of error was. What is the margin of error for Ole Miss moving forward as it pertains to the college football playoff?
Well, I think they can afford another loss, but that's it. So you look at the schedule. If they lose to Ole Miss in 2 weeks, they are going to be on the brink the rest of the way. That means they're going to have to beat Georgia at home and everything else that they deal with. And I don't think they can do it. But so to me, this season was about getting to the playoffs. I felt like if Lane Kiffin did not make the playoffs with his best team, maybe the best team in 50 or 60 years at Ole Miss, this season was a bust. And we haven't gotten to that point, but he lost the wrong game. And I know that's not giving credit to Mark Stoops, but we're talking about Ole Miss here. And this was a game that Ole Miss had to find a way to win. And once again, Lane Kiffin has missed the moment.
Paul, last one.
Go ahead,
Paul,
Greg.
I have one more quick one on Miami, and it's really more about officiating. The Miami Hail Mary, highly dramatic on Friday. I didn't think it was a catch when I watched it live. The ball was bouncing around. They were laying out of bounds. I didn't think it was a catch. It's called a catch. It's called a touchdown. It's ultimately overturned, which I think was the correct decision. But I don't think there was video evidence to overturn it. All these different conferences have gone to collaborative replay, have had, they're in Charlotte and Birmingham and Chicago and all these other places. At what point are we going to get a national standard for officiating and just make sure it's better? Because it does seem like there's a lot of inconsistencies from conference to conference.
I agree. I watched it live like you did, and I don't know how I was more surprised they called it a touchdown than they overturned it. But it needs to happen, and I think now that we have the Big Ten and the SEC singing from the same hymnal, I think that's where it ought to start. And if those two leagues do it, I don't know why the others can't come together. It seems like it'd be more efficient. It'd probably be cheaper and more accurate. I totally agree with you, Greg.
Paul, great stuff. Thanks for hopping on today, and I'll see you here in a few hours.
You bet. Thanks, Cole.
Paul Feinbaum joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline with us each and every week. Thanks to our friends at Craneworks right here on Jocks 94.5. First segment on Alabama's massive win against Georgia. You'll hear from some of that coaching staff from after the game next on Mac and Cube in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Kublik in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. 800-239-9569. You want to get in on Alabama, Georgia? Tweet in at Mac and Cube. YouTube search Jocks945. You can watch there. Greg and I are not in studio today. I'm in Charlotte getting ready for Read and React tonight on the SEC Network, 6 p.m. with Roman Harper. Roman has hogged all the Bama plays. I'm just going to let you guys know that tonight. Like, I have nothing to do with that. Like, he's taking all of them.
You
So
hate the Tide.
that's definitely it. But just so get ready. It should be a pretty good breakdown. Should be pretty cool. Some stuff that we're going to talk about. We are going to get to Auburn going down to Oklahoma here in just a few moments. Sanford's game against Furman was postponed, and just really everybody up, and I'm actually somewhat close, but folks here in the Carolinas, man, and through Tennessee and North Carolina, just thoughts and prayers with everybody dealing with some of this flood damage. It is beyond recognition, some of the things that have happened. I mean, you see concrete bridges being swept away, complete homes being swept away. It is honestly terrifying, some of the video footage coming out of there. So I hope that some quick relief comes to those folks. Alabama State took out Bethune-Cookman over the weekend, 26-21. Zach Sims just 8 of 12 for 78 yards, but Jeremy Holtzclaw, 15 carries, 120 yards. They outrushed Bethune 308-55 to get to 2-2 on the season. So that one for the Hornets over the weekend, and Eddie Robinson Jr. getting a nice win to get to 500. I want to tell you about Wayne's quickly because you're probably not thinking about getting your yard ready for next spring right now. A lot of people are not worried about that, but now's the time you need to start getting it ready. And right now is the time that you need to start looking at, getting that yard going because it's about to be dormant season. It's about to be cold. And when that happens, your yard's not going to be ready for next spring. It's not going to be the envy of your neighborhood. You're not going to have that lush, green, weed-free, barefoot good yard. GMAC, our friends at Wayne's, can help that happen.
Yeah, they can. First month will be free, too. If you go and check out 866 Wayne's 1, the Envirolawn is one of my favorite services. I've absolutely loved it. Barefoot good all the time. It's been fantastic. So go check them out, 866 Wayne's 1. That's 866 Wayne's 1. Visit callwaynes.com and let Wayne's continue to create your happy place.
All right, so Alabama in what some people are calling the greatest game they've ever seen. I'm not sure. Maybe we need to ask folks where this one would rank for you as far as all-time Alabama games, either that you've been to, seen in person, watched, just in general. And Jalen Milroe set multiple records in this game. It was an unbelievable performance. Head coach Kalen DeBoer on Jalen Milroe after the game.
Yeah, he was, I think, exceptional. And I really, I didn't want to jump the gun, but I just really felt like the last couple weeks, and it starts with the Wisconsin game where he got into a little bit of rhythm, made those plays, but you could see him taking that step from week 2 to week 3. The offensive line, I think, is doing a good job for the most part of really protecting him, and and he's thinking about where he's going to go with the ball. It doesn't mean he's perfect, but man, he's a weapon out there, and he's doing it both through the air and with his feet. When he needed to put the ball somewhere, I really felt like his accuracy, and that goes to his timing, the rhythm. The confidence, the belief that he has in his receivers and whoever's catching the pass.
So I don't think there's any surprise there what Kalen DeBoer says about Jalen Milroe and his performance and how good it was. We know that performance by Ryan Williams may be just as good. Kalen DeBoer on his freshman wide receiver.
He's a guy. Those are some of the plays, some of the ones he's had in the early part of the season, he was very open. But there was reasons why he was also open, just a subtle understanding of timing and where the ball and what the concept was, where the ball was going to be thrown. But now you see some of the playmaking that I know we saw during fall camp where, there are competitive catches, and that happened a couple times tonight. So, then after I think the thing I'm probably more impressed with that I knew he was going to bring, but it's what he's doing after the catch too. It's not surprising, but it's certainly impressive. That's what I think our team really sees in him. The upperclassmen, I know have noticed that from day one.
I don't know how you couldn't notice it because it has been completely insane what that young man does after he catches the football, or maybe even while he's catching the football. Competitive catches there, Greg, what Kalen DeBoer said. I think a fair way to describe kind of how Ryan Williams has been able to – it's not even going up and getting the football. It's like maneuvering around defensive backs to be able to be in position to catch the football. That's so impressive.
Yeah, and a lot of coaches will say like late move, late hands, right? The later you make the adjustment to the ball in the air, the less time the defender has to recover and make the adjustment alongside you. Because the defender's playing the receiver, and if you don't turn your body to make a catch on a slightly underthrown deep ball until the last second, then the defender can't do it either. And the receiver's always going to be a step ahead because he's locating the football in the air. I mean, his ability to track the ball. The deep ball down the right sideline was the fact that 75-yard touchdown that put the game away was his second best play of the night is insane. I mean, seriously, that is clinically insane. Now, if you watch the throw, Jalen backed up, post, and he tips it to himself, that was his best play of the night. And it was a 10 out of 10 difficulty level and a 10 out of 10 concentration level and body adjustment, bending, the way he bends, he's ridiculous, man. Absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, I wouldn't have thought a 170-pound freshman would be great after the catch either. But I guess for fear of getting hit, he's great after the catch. But he's just so crafty, man. He's just amazing.
It really is impressive to see just kind of what he's done, how he's doing it as a freshman. And there's another part of that we're not going to mention because I think we're all sick of hearing it. So
he's 17. He turns 18 in February. Have you heard that?
We got 43 minutes in and had not done it. And I thought we were on a good track there to not be able to do it again. And you had to ruin it.
Ruin.
We just don't need it. Don't need it. Don't want it. Don't do it. So we'll move on to tell you about our friends at Crocker Moving Services if you're moving out of a home or into a new home.
Local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys, and you can trust them in your home. Whether you need your whole home packed up and move, your company headquarters moved across country, or you just want them to come rearrange a living room, these guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you purchase and need to get to your home, so call or visit them online today for a free quote. The website's CrockerMovingServices.com. That's CrockerMovingServices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
All right, Greg has a warning for everybody out there. Do not be alarmed at what you are going to hear him say next about a game that was not played in Tuscaloosa over the weekend. We'll share it with you right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kubalik in the morning. Have not hit this Auburn game yet and want to get the reaction to it. 27-21, Oklahoma gets the win at Jordan-Hare Stadium. 800-239-9569 if you want to get into the show. 800-239-WJOX. You can tweet into the show at Mac and Cube also if you want to be a part to discuss this game. So I sort of hit in the break that there was a part of this game that Greg wanted to discuss, and some of you folks might not like it, might not like what you're going to hear. You will like what you're going to hear from Game Day Men's Health. If you struggle from energy, sleep, lack of energy, feeling on edge, that could be the effects of low testosterone, and Game Day Men's Health wants to help you with that. You can feel better now. Just go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com, set up that free consultation, and with that, you get a free testosterone test and a free PSA test. The good news is, even past that, minimal upfront cost for the programs that they offer. That's going to differentiate them between the competition here in Birmingham. So testosterone replacement therapy can help with better sleep, better mood, less brain fog, more energy. A lot of different ways that Game Day Men's Health wants to help you, including weight loss. They have multiple plans there that can help you get a little bit of the extra weight off. And with the holidays coming up, we know it's going to be an issue for a lot of us, including myself. Get all your facts at GameDayMen'sHealth.com, GameDayMen'sHealth.com, and save 10% by mentioning Cube. Tell me you heard about him right here on Mac and Cube in the morning. Oklahoma goes to 4-1, 27-21. Michael Hawkins Jr. got the start for Oklahoma. None of the regular receivers got the start. They were all out. 10 of 15, 161 yards, 14 carries, 69 yards, and a touchdown. Jarquez Hunter, 17 for 97. Peyton Thorne, 21 of 32, 338, 3 touchdowns, ran 17 times for 23 yards, did have 1 interception, and that interception was run back for a touchdown late in the fourth quarter. The only thing I'm going to say about it right this second, Greg, and I want to let you say what you're going to say, is just I understand the offense. I understand running the offense. I understand what the offense calls for at certain points in time. There is not a single solitary excuse or reason on planet Earth that football leaves the quarterback's hands in that portion of the game. Period. Point blank. End of story. Nothing else to even discuss. Your thoughts on Auburn's performance against Oklahoma?
Let's start with the end of game situation. And I think you and I are on the exact same page with the pick six. We can get to that in a minute. We can break it down. I've watched it 100 different times. I'm very comfortable talking about that, but it's the drive before that I think is worth addressing, because we had this exact same situation. What was it? 2 years ago or 3 years ago, where Alabama in the red zone against Texas A&M calls RPO, and Bryce decides to throw it. And remember, everybody and their brother starts saying, why aren't we running the ball? Why aren't we running the ball? It's because you tag the RPO. And let's be real, that was a huge, huge mistake. When you are an RPO-based team, I'm all about it, but sometimes you have to take the keys away from the teenage driver. If the teenage driver has not, in this first month of the season, showcased the ability to make great decisions, you take the keys away. Okay, that's what you do. And I think the RPO game and the decision to call RPOs in that second to last drive, or that second to last drive before the big one, right, before the pick six, was a big mistake in the game with the 2-score lead and sitting there with nearly single-digit minutes left on the clock.
10:59 remaining, 1st and 10. You throw an incomplete pass. 10:56 remaining on 2nd and 10. You throw an incomplete pass.
RPO.
And then on 3rd and 10, you decide to run the football. So you give the ball back by missing a field goal with 10:12 left. You started the drive with 11:30 left. Up 21-10 fourth quarter, not a great football team playing a great defense. You can't put the ball in the air. There's just no other way to describe it. And as you stated, it's what the offense calls for. You got to go to a call and run it at that point. And if you're not familiar with kind of how that is, what that is, how that works, you call the run play and you run it. There are no tags. There are no checks. There are no audibles. There's nothing different. It doesn't matter if you call toss sweep to the right and there are 10 defenders standing over the right tackle. Like, you run the play. It just is what it is. And to give you a little context on that and how normal that is, I'm standing on the 50 in warmups talking to Coach Sark about the game. I was like, all right, we're here, we're going. Anything kind of early that you want to see, you want to do. He's like, he said, I think we're going to go with some call it run. It's early in the game just to get him comfortable, so he can look at things and doesn't have to worry about things. And maybe I can talk to him a little bit, but he doesn't have to worry about actually changing anything. He's like, so other than that, he goes, just some call and run. It's in maybe the first, maybe the second drive. And he said, that's what I told you yesterday. That's kind of how we're going to go. It doesn't have to be late in the game. This is a normal thing that happens, but there just has to be more clock awareness. It's 21-10. It's not 42-48. Like this hasn't been a track meet of offense. You haven't been dominant in any facet of the game. You've got to work clock there. You have to work clock. It's the only way that you can confidently look at that situation and say you're going to survive. The only way. And defense played great. Offense did some better things, and there's no doubt about it. But you have to be more aware of what you are at that point and work clock. It's just I don't know another way to say it.
I have no problem with you going down that path. But if we're gonna take a bigger picture approach, this game in many ways, just being very honest, this game in many ways felt a little bit like watching Miami from 2023, where the big plays, they make so many great things happen. So many great things happen throughout the game. Miami's a really good team, very talented team, but for whatever reason, their games are decided by a critical error that flips it on its head. There is no reason why Auburn should have lost this football game. They outplayed Oklahoma in almost every conceivable way. And yet their one mistake, ultimately led to Oklahoma stealing the game. They gave up two big plays in the game. One where the quarterback Hawkins split the safeties. He's a good player. That was an amazing run. I didn't expect him to turn on the juice like that. And two is a long throw down the sideline. Other than that, that's pretty much it. You gave up just about nothing defensively. But the big mistake is a backbreaker. It's like fumbling it when you should be kneeling it in a 4-minute drive. So it happens. It's unfortunate. But, man, if I'm Auburn and I hate to have moral victories, I think my team's a lot better than this 2-3 record. People aren't going to give us many chances here in the next 3 weeks. But I actually think, based on what I saw Saturday, this team is a lot more equipped to go to Athens and to Columbia, Missouri, and to Lexington, Kentucky. They're a lot more equipped than they were 2 weeks ago to go and potentially pull off a big upset. Like, I thought a lot of progress was made last week.
That's the difference, is they will go now on the road for a month. Back with more Mac and Q right after this. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Greg has given us his thoughts of being there in person. Laura Rutledge also on site covering this game, doing sideline for Alabama's massive win against the Georgia Bulldogs, 41-34 at Bryant-Denny Stadium Saturday night. And Laura normally doing SEC Nation in the mornings. You see her on Monday Night Football. You see her on NFL Live and on sideline for this game. Just give us your thoughts on it, on all of it in its totality, the environment, just kind of everything first, Laura, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I mean, I've covered SEC championship games. I've been at national championship games, college football playoff semifinals. This felt just like that, if not more intense somehow. Even warm-ups, I'm sitting there like, golly, these guys are juiced up. I mean, it was insane. It was everything that you hope for. I mean, I think there was so much questioning around the expanded playoff and whether or not people would actually care about these games and whether or not they matter. And maybe we've taken away, some of the intensity of what it means. Yeah, throw all that out the window. Once the thing got started, and even like I said before, it was just as meaningful and maybe even more meaningful than it's ever been. The competitive fire from both sides was absolutely incredible.
It was wild. And pregame interview with Kalen was awesome. Well done. Not that you ever ask bad questions, but it was just, I thought it really captured like who he is. But it's just, the guy is like, are you joking? Like, dude, you're about to play a huge game. Like, ramp it up. He's like, it's so, it's just so relaxed. It's wild. But anyways, I digress. You were on the sideline and kind of observing that team. Some people were a little frustrated about how it ended and how they played in the second half. Like, what was kind of the temperature there as things started to turn a little bit and Georgia started to create a little momentum?
Yeah, it was interesting because, obviously the first half was almost shocking. I even think Bama was shocked at how well it was going. And some of it was just Jalen Milroe was on fire. I've never seen him look so confident and look like he truly had all of the answers to the test. And then it was like, Georgia starts creeping back in. And there was a moment right before the fourth quarter where Kalen was saying to some of the coaches, to some of the team, he was kind of like going up and down the sideline, like, that's a championship team over there. We cannot let them back in. They do this. They will be able to get back in. They will be able to win. They're not going to stop fighting. And it was just like he could see it happening, predictively, and then yet it was still happening. And some of that's a credit to Georgia. I also think, guys, and something that, you know how it gets in these games, we couldn't really get this in because there was so much going on. They got tired. Alabama was exhausted on the sideline. There was even a moment when Milroe leaned back on the bench and was almost resting his head on the back of the bench. And you saw he didn't quite have the same burst running in that second half. I don't blame him one bit. He was running his legs off in the first half and throwing it and doing everything, right? And it was probably such an intense mental focus, too, that probably, at some point you just, as a human being, you just kind of let off the gas just a little bit. So I think that was a factor, but it was almost unbelievable what started happening later in that game. And then, of course, it got terrifying for them. And there was a bit of a stunned feel on the Alabama sideline until, of course, what happened, which we know what happened. But I I still can't get over it. Nobody could breathe at the end of the game. Like, everybody was just holding their breath, like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Laura Rutledge of ESPN was on the Alabama sideline for Alabama, Georgia over the weekend, joining us now to discuss it. That was going to be my next question to you, is how different was sort of the feel? How different was the energy, some of the discussions on the sideline in the second half once Georgia began to mount that comeback?
Yeah, it was interesting. There was a moment where, I saw a lot of maturity in Jalen Milroe. I was on the sideline for Alabama in the Rose Bowl at the end of last season for them, and you didn't see this type of ownership that I saw in this game on Saturday. He even went down and talked to the receivers and was pointing at himself and saying, this is on me. I'm not doing enough, and I'm going to be better, and I'm going to figure this out. And it was funny because, when they got the ball back and we're thinking, right, all they need to do is get a first down, and then he just launches it to Ryan Williams, and we're like, oh my God, that you didn't need to do that. But I do think part of this was, some of it was aggressive play calling at times, and then sometimes it wasn't as aggressive, right? And I'd be curious what you guys think about that. But I think there was this moment of Milroe thinking, I know I can be better than I was in the beginning part of the second half, and better, in a way to where they wouldn't have been able to get back in the game. He was taking a lot of ownership. And then there were also these tense moments where, like, he was crouching down on the sideline, almost head in hands, can't look, and then looking, and then, being upset about what was happening out there. And it was just, I'm sure for him, a roller coaster of emotions. But I did see, I think, improved maturity in who he's becoming as a leader. And my goodness, I mean, for him to be owning poor play, acting like he was not playing well after the game that he was having, I think probably meant a lot to his teammates.
What'd you make of kind of I've just never been on the field with him, and Cole has, and you have, and I'd kind of like to ask both of you guys this. Like, how is Kalen on a big game like this? Like, he did show a little emotion, like there was a non-call on a DPI where he was kind of losing his mind. It's not often that he does that, but it appears like he was maybe ramped up a little more than he was at any point. Felt like maybe back at Washington. But what was he like, and what was kind of his mannerisms in the game?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I was kind of wondering that too, because you mentioned it, Greg. Like, he's so flatline. He's so calm. He doesn't get over the top or anything. And we did see that emotion in that non-call. I've never seen him act that way. So that was kind of funny. Like, even some of the people on the sideline were like, whoa, but it was interesting too, like later in the game when it was sort of slipping through their fingers, I was right next to Kalen, like kind of off to the side. And he ended up like closer to that part of the sideline. And he was just very calm. He was very matter of fact, talking in his headset, but not yelling at anybody. You could tell he was pacing a little bit, like he was thinking about what was he going to do and thinking through things, but he never to his players showed any sort of panic. And then, individually when they would come off the field, and there were a couple times, like there were some missed opportunities by the DBs. Obviously, Georgia starts just going bombs away, airing it out. He would kind of pull them over and say, okay, like, you've got this, just like very calm, quiet encouragement. And then there was a moment, I don't know what he said, but he pulled Jalen Milroe over right before the final drive, where he did end up throwing that incredible pass to Ryan Williams, and just kind of like stood with him for a second and said something, and then sent him back out there. It always looked like he was just very quickly and calmly going over the plan, giving Milroe all the details that he needed, and letting him know exactly what was going to be, in his head as a coach. You just see how he leads, and it is very different from Coach Saban, but I think in a lot of ways very effective.
So you mentioned, Laura, that you were on the sideline. Laura Rutledge of ESPN with us on the Buyers Right hotline for that Rose Bowl. Can you just outside of Jalen Milroe, and you mentioned he's a little more maturity and kind of handling himself in a different way, how would you compare and contrast sort of the demeanor of those two football teams?
Yeah, I was thinking about that a lot, Cole, actually. Like, what's different now? And I think there's a lot that's the same. So I don't want to, take anything away from what that team was that really did fight hard there at the end of last season. And they just weren't able to come up with it against a great Michigan team, right? But what I saw in this group is they're looser and they're more fun. They're having more fun. Now, this is contextual, right? Because this game was wildly fun for them in the first half. And they were but it wasn't like they were being crazy. They were very focused still. I mean, there was even a point, I actually thought this was so cool. Kalen DeBoer came over to the DBs actually in the first half and was saying, if you guys can continue to stay tight on them, this is working. Like they knew that those Georgia receivers couldn't create any separation, at least at that point in the game, right? Then he also went over to the offense and was telling them, like, we've got their defense on their heels, but we can't stop. Like, we're not going to let off the gas, which of course is ironic when you think about what happened in the second half. But he was very measured in the way that he was talking to them, not getting overhyped or anything like that, telling them to maintain focus. But yeah, they were having fun. They're a lot looser. I mean, Jalen Milroe told me that he's allowed himself to play fast and free now. He's confident. He has a confidence that he never had before, and that has been infused in him by Kalen DeBoer. And I don't think it's a knock on the previous – it's definitely not a knock on Coach Saban. They love Coach Saban. But I think it's more that this is a staff that really pours into them in a way that works for this group of young men. And I saw that on display, especially in contrast to what the Rose Bowl was. The Rose Bowl was a team that was tighter, a team that I think felt more pressure. This is a team that just is playing free and fun. I mean, you can't watch Ryan Williams and think that he's not – like actually playing just backyard football somehow at the highest level of college football. And it's so incredibly entertaining to watch.
Laura, we appreciate the time. I know you're extremely busy, but you made some for us.
Are you doing a game tonight, Laura? Are you doing both games? Knowing you're probably doing both games.
I'm doing, no, I'm doing Titans-Dolphins tonight. I have a funny thing, you guys. Chris Fowler is doing this too, and he obviously had an incredible call for the Bama Georgia game. And after the game, we looked at each other, we're like, I think our Monday Night Football game is going to be a little different than this one. It's not going to be quite as exciting, but listen, you never know. Okay. Will Levis against Snoop Huntley. Let's go.
There you go.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be fun. But I know that one Saturday night was fun too. We appreciate you talking with us about it, and I look forward to catching up soon. Thank you, Laura.
Thanks, guys.
All right, there you go. Laura Rutledge be on one of the Monday Night Football games tonight and was on the call for Alabama, Georgia. Some pretty cool insight there as to what she saw and how things went down. We'll talk more about it. Going to open up the phones to you, 800-239-9569. Now will be your chance to get in and discuss it, as we still have Tyler Watts coming up at 9 o'clock. He was on the radio call as well. Get his thoughts on that game. Also, Auburn going down to Oklahoma over the weekend. Your thoughts there, your level of confidence. Is your level of confidence where Greg's is moving forward, that they can get things figured out, that they can alter some things moving ahead and find a way to get that done? If you need to get your pants altered, though, Greg, you can probably go to the pants store.
Yeah, free alterations and gift wrapping if you want it. If you're like Cole and I, maybe you need to get them taken out as the year goes along. 'Cause I'm just every Monday I feel just the tiniest bit heavier. But either way, the pants store will get us taken care of. Really appreciate these guys at the game day headquarters. I was able to go to the game and I was decked out in Bama gear head to toe, courtesy of the pants store. I really appreciate these guys. They have a great selection. They have the best. I mean, they really do. The best brands like Horn Legend, Cutter and Buck, Antigua, Gentile. Nobody does game day apparel like the pants store. They also have you game day ready from head to toe if you're a lady as well. Hoka, New Balance, Western boots. You need a romper, you need a dress, whether it's Western boots, you name it, they got you. So Pants Store will get you covered. Tons of clear purses as well, so you can go through security really quickly and still look fashionable. So free alteration gift wrap, like I said, zip on down to the Pants Store for all your game day needs.
All right, when we come back, your thoughts on some of these games. And believe it or not, some of you tweeting in are actually frustrated Alabama fans after possibly winning the greatest college football game in history. We'll share those next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kubalik in the morning. We see some of you on hold, 800-239-9569. Going to get to you there. You can always listen to the show online, jocksfm.com. The app is in your app store, iPhone, Android. Download that for free. Also, you can watch the show on the app and get all your podcasts on the app. iTunes, Spotify, podcasts, all there as well as jocksfm.com. Tell your home smart speaker to enable the Jock skill, or go to YouTube, search Jocks945, and today you'll get a beautiful graphic and be able to listen to us there. Mondays, we're usually out. I'm in Charlotte. Greg speaking tonight in Little Rock, so usually out of the studio on Monday, but we'll be back in tomorrow, and you'll be able to see us there. Miles College takes down Allen College 33-13 over the weekend. Gennaro Scott, 26 carries, 179 yards, and a touchdown. Rock Dowdle, 3.5 sacks in the game. UNA gets their first win of the season, 25-16 over West Georgia. They're now 1-5. West Georgia 1-3. UNA gets Utah Tech at home 4 p.m. as they celebrate the '94 national championship team. Outgained West Georgia 354-223. 8 players had a rushing attempt in this game as they were dominant on the ground. How about this one, Greg? Time of possession for UNA, 43-16 to 16-44.
It's like Kentucky Ole Miss time of possession margin there.
That was actually also dominant, no doubt about it. So we'll get to your calls, get to your texts as well. If you want to be a part of the show via the text line, you can always do that. 205-834-9450. Damian, what are the folks saying on the text line?
It's getting a little dicey. A lot of Auburn fans are not as optimistic as one Greg McElroy about their team moving forward. We had somebody text in and says this Auburn game was lost by the coaching staff. All fellow Auburn fans are blaming Thorne for this. I understand he threw the pick 6, but he played well up until then, and that play should have never been called.
The play should have been called. It's just like Greg said, the RPO tag should have been taken off of it. You got. I think Greg's line is one that's going to stick with me. Sometimes you got to take the keys out of the kid's hands, and not let him drive. And I think that was one of those. That was one of those moments. And then if you went 2 drives prior, Greg and I are a little bit different on this. Just under 11 minutes left in the game, you have to start thinking about holding on for dear life there. And the reason I say that is self-awareness. You have to know who you are as a team. You're not able to go out and just run the football. So you're not going to successfully be able to maintain possession to get the rest of that clock off. So you got to start running it now, in my opinion. And also, by the way, your defense have played pretty well. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
So what's the harm with 10:41 or 10:31 or 10:21 left to run the ball 3 times, get as much clock off as you can, punt the football, and don't give up an explosive play? And then also probably don't go man coverage against a quarterback who's throwing Hail Marys, and it's seemingly the only way that he can beat you. Like let's keep a couple guys deep that can maybe help you out. That would be my only other gripe with the game. But yes, what else, Damian?
They are very frustrated with the clock management at the end of half, both first and second half. Somebody texted in that part.
Okay. I mean, what?
I don't remember the first half. God's honest truth. I'd have to look at that. But
I think it was like the fire alarm
second
there
half
at the end. With they ran the field goal unit out, they kicked it, missed it,
yeah.
and had 12 men for Oklahoma.
And then, had 12 men. Yeah. But what do you want me to do? I mean, what was it, a 36-yard field goal? I mean, how far was the field goal? I mean, give me a freaking break. How about the guy makes it? Like, I don't.
I'm kind of with you on that too. Like,
I mean, give me a freaking break. It's not like I mean, all right. So people are killing the Ole Miss kicker. It's like that was a 49-yarder. Like, you know who butchered their end of game sequence was the sack on first down by Jackson. You can't take that sack. You just can't. But like, I'm sorry, you have a backup kicker in the game, and I'm not gonna call him out. But I mean, give me a freaking break. It was a chip shot. Make the freaking field goal. So I mean, feel bad for the guy, but you miss a 27-yarder. What do you want him to do? You miss a long one, fine, but how far was that field goal? Seriously,
I think it was 20? Was it 28 yards? It was something close.
It's like the 10-yard line. It's like, I mean, what do you want? Make the freaking field goal.
Somebody else takes in and says, Greg, it's hard to be optimistic when the rest of the schedule looks tougher. These were the ones that we thought that we had.
Yeah, I understand that, but I don't necessarily look at the schedule. I understand that the next 3 games are a beast. There's no denying that, okay? But the team that took the field on Saturday is far more equipped to knock off said beasts. Georgia, Mizzou, at Kentucky, Bama on the road. Like, the team that played on Saturday is way, way, way better than the team we saw in the first 4 weeks. So I know that it doesn't feel good to lose, and I'm never going to suggest that Auburn has moral victories. They should never settle for moral victories, ever. But I look more, and I don't know how Cole feels about this, so I'd love to get your take, Cole. Like, I look at the quality of the play. How well did they play? And I thought they played really well on Saturday. Yes, they had a critical error, and that's what ultimately lost them the game. But all in all, that was a much better performance against better competition than anyone they'd seen up to this point. So I came away from it thinking, all right, this is a team that is going to be capable of potentially pulling off a big upset down the stretch.
I think it may have been offensively. I can't believe I'm going to say this. That was the best offensive performance I've seen this year from them.
By far.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because the level of defense, defense was what, 5 times? Not 5 times better than Cal's, but I mean, still much more significantly talented. I'm not going to say better coach because Wilcox and those guys do a great job, but I mean, this is just a better defense than Cal, and I mean, leaps and bounds better than what they've seen the rest of the year. So to be able to execute to the level that they did, I thought was pretty good. And again, I mentioned it. The game plan was great. You extended the run game through the air. So therefore, you're not just relying on your offensive line to open up holes. You utilize quarterback's legs at time, and he did a nice job getting away from some pressure at times.
Great.
Like, he avoided, until the catastrophe play, other what could have been catastrophe plays. Keandre Lambert-Smith's becoming like a go-to wide receiver. Like, he made some tough catches. He gives you good run after catch. Like, he's overly reliable. You know, Cam Coleman's getting there. I know the talent's there and people have seen the one-handed catches and everything, but like, the reliability has not been exactly where you want it to be all this year.
He had a drop on the first drive of the freaking game. Like, how many freaking drops this year? Like, catch the ball. Like, I understand he's a freshman, all this stuff, but like, look, dude, you're highly touted pros. It's a curl route at 8 yards. It's right on your face mask. Like, catch the rock. There was another one with Keandre Lambert-Smith where he didn't come back to the ball. I thought he could have made the quarterback better, but I thought the quarterback, Peyton Thorne, played out of his mind. I thought he played great. He was decisive. He had great urgency. I thought his ball placement on the deep balls were excellent because those were not like they were wide open.
Whose fault was it on the ball up the left sideline? It looked like almost like a little scissors concept, and there was like a go ball and
okay, and 14 was on the corner route,
and he was mad. He was mad as hell after that throw.
Yeah, 14 was on the corner. I don't know what the route was. So the route on the outside, he ran a post, but it was a really ugly post.
Mm-hmm.
It was a hideous post, frankly. If that route is designed to stay up the sideline, then the throw was fine. I just don't know if it was supposed to be a post, what the receiver ran, or if he was supposed to stay vertical. I understand 14 being frustrated too. I'm blanking on names. All the names get confused.
Well, no, Thorne was the one that was mad, and I'm like, he better have been right acting that way after that play.
I think the receiver, and I believe it was Cam Coleman that was on the outside, he got an outside release and kind of bent it too far to the inside. Because like I said, if it was a post, you usually know it, Damian. Like, I know you're running a post. This was a post that was angled at like 2 yards off the original angle. So I don't know why he was working back inside. But yeah, I think that one might have been on the receiver.
Yeah, that was one that stuck out to me that I saw where he obviously was frustrated. And, you know, it's like you said, sometimes we don't know exactly how things go. Let's go to Tom in Birmingham on the Buyers Right Hotline. Tom, welcome into the show.
Good morning. Hey, you two savants shoot holes in this theory. There were the paradox of the best coaching decisions in the Auburn or the Alabama-Georgia game were all over the place. Great decisions on both sides. Auburn game, enough bad decisions by Auburn to last a season. And Coach Freeze personally lost that game for him, and this is why. Great coaches don't get in the way of a team. Mediocre ones do. And this was a very mediocre performance by a mediocre coach. at Auburn. Alabama's had a few of those, but they've mostly been assistant coaches like Bruce Arians or Bill O'Brien. They just get in the way, and what those mediocre coaches strive for is that it's all about me trophy, or I'm the smartest guy on the field trophy. Great coaches don't really care about that. That's just a sideline for them. But I hope Greg's not giving Auburn people false hope. We can have this discussion in the 1st of November if Auburn pulls an upset. But man, he won the trophy this weekend on mediocre coaching at Auburn.
Well, I'm with Greg that I think that they have some things there that are going to allow them to get one of these games coming up. I mean, listen, Kentucky is a hell of a win against Ole Miss, and played great against Georgia, but they got flaws. Missouri hadn't played super clean football all year, so I mean, it's not insurmountable. Hell, Georgia's looked human at times. So I mean, and there are some things with the Auburn defense that looks good, and I just wonder too. If this is even possible. Like, I understand what you're saying about certain coaches get in the way. How much of that, though, has to do with your team's personality, maybe what you believe, what you think? I mean, he's given the team opportunities to go take games, and they haven't done it. So do you feel like you need to go out there and steer that ship at that point? I'm just thinking out loud. I don't know. I don't know what's in his head. I don't know what's in the team's head. But I do know he's watched his team give some games away, right? So if you've watched your team give some games away, what's your mentality late in games? You probably feel like you need to help them. So that's the only thing I can imagine here. I don't know exactly what the mindset is. Luke in Birmingham wants to talk Auburn. Welcome into the show, Luke.
What's up, guys?
Not much. How are you?
What's up, man?
Hey, we're good. We went to the game on Saturday for Auburn, and Greg, this is more, I guess, for you, but I just don't understand. Jarquez is cooking. We've had that long run. I mean, everybody in the stadium is thinking if we just run the ball, there is no way that Oklahoma is going to get the ball back and go down and score 2 touchdowns on our defense, just as good as they were playing. With Peyton being a 4-year starter, should he not know? I mean, I understand, taking the keys away from him, like Cole said, but Coach Freeze was not happy on the sideline when he threw those back-to-back incompletions. And to me, the receivers didn't even look like they were expecting the ball. I mean, I just don't understand somebody that's been in that many games not knowing we need to run the ball no matter what the look is or the read is. I just don't understand.
No,
well,
and
here's the
do
one
we.
thing I would say.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I don't either. And here's the one thing I would say about that. Like, yes, in a perfect world, like, I think back in the day, let me just get on my soapbox and yell at the clouds like an old man here. But I think back in the day, players had a better understanding of situational awareness. You know why? Because we were all freaking football junkies, like all of us. I don't know why. Players back in the day just had a great understanding of situational awareness. I think it was a more cerebral player. Now I think players play plays. On that, and I don't know why that is. I think Cole will explain. Players back in the day just had a better contextual understanding of complementary football. They just did. But with fantasy football and like everything, it's become a little bit more stat driven, stat based. Like I think getting to the finish line was the most important back in the early 2000s, 90s, 80s. So it didn't really matter how you got there. Now you just play the play. The play is called, and all right, no matter how nameless, faceless opponent, 11 minutes left in the game. I'm not at that point, God's honest truth, thinking clock at that point at 11 minutes. If I'm playing quarterback and I felt like I was a pretty dang good game manager, great situational awareness, probably the strength of my game more than anything else. And I'm not thinking clock at 10 minutes. I'm not. I'm thinking, all right, I got to stay aggressive, The only thing that can kill you here is just being too conservative. We've seen that at times hurt teams too. So hindsight being 20/20, I'm probably doing the same thing he does. But when an RPO is called and you're running the ball well, guess what Oklahoma's going to do? They're going to spin down and take away the run. So when you have a team that spins down and take away the run, you have a good throw look, you're going to throw it. So you have to, if you want to run the ball and you feel like the defense is on their heels, cannot leave it up to the quarterback to play that play because his read will force him to throw the football in that situation. So I know what you're saying and it's frustrating. I get it. But it's just that's where we've evolved to kind of as a team and as a sport if you're Auburn.
Appreciate the call. It's an interesting mentality because, like, I think you and I are on different sides of that. But that's just kind of, I'm sort of that lot of ball left kind of guy where I want to. I've just always been a possession or two ahead of other people saying it's time to start working the clock. Like, just run the ball 3 times and punt the ball. It's okay. And I know what the offense is, and I know how it's built, and I know what they're giving you. Who cares? Like, just start working it down now. And I'm not sure why my brain thinks that way or why, but your brain is probably where a lot more head coaches and offensive coordinators are, is that we got to keep going. Like, we've got to keep running what we run. It's still the offense. And it's no different than we've got people tweeting in complaining about Alabama's second half. And you just beat Georgia at home in one of the most insane environments that anybody's ever seen. One of the most insane games anybody's ever seen. Like, you overcame a lot of adversity late, and you're able to do it, able to win it. CJ,
the other thing, one other thing quickly here too on the game. Like, at that point, your defense had given up 1 play in the game. Seriously, 1 play in the game. So it's easy to think clock, like hindsight, like you are allowing, I think, in this scenario, and many people are, and I think it's completely fair because hindsight is 2020. But at that point in the game, you're up 11. Your defense had not done anything of significance, and you were in field goal range. Like, I think if McPherson's not, where he is right now, I don't know what the deal is with the kicking situation. You're in field goal range. Like, I'm okay with most guys are going to be, 50-50 on 50-yard field goals. I don't know. Auburn, when they had Legatron, it's maybe 70-30. On 50-yard field goals. So, like, you're in field goal range. It's just, you make that field goal, and it's a little different animal, but I get it. It's hindsight being 2020, but the defense had played unbelievable. They hadn't given up anything. And then, sure enough, the next drive, they gave up their second play of the game, which results in setting them up right on the cusp of scoring another touchdown. So, I get it. I'd be frustrated too, but man, it's hard for me to be thinking clock with 11 minutes left. It really is.
I understand, and it's fair to look at it both ways. Why do you guys on hold? We'll continue taking some of your feedback here for another segment or two after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kublik in the morning. 800-239-9569. You want to get in. Talk Alabama's win over the weekend against Georgia. Auburn goes down to Oklahoma at home. What does the future look like? Some of you a little more optimistic, some of you not. But there's a couple different ways that you could take it and look at it moving forward. You think about a couple of things that took place in that game and not what people want to see. But I do think that there were some things that happened that can be built upon and some positives, as Greg pointed out earlier, that you can utilize to maybe do some things moving forward and be a successful team, get some wins. But you can always get wins when you walk in the door at Bromberg's, G-Mac.
Bromberg's will always treat you like family when you walk in the door. That's why it's the only place that I've shopped for that special, one-of-a-kind gift that I'm looking for, man. The 2 locations are in Mountain Brook Village and the Summit. You can also shop online. They have set the standard in fine jewelry, watches, giftware, and the customer service is second to none. When you're purchasing something like this, it's going to potentially be in your family for generations. That's why this company, Bromberg's, has been with us since 1836, making people around the Birmingham area smile. So enjoy the luxury shopping experience that you'll only find at Bromberg's in Mountain Brook Village and the Summit, or you can shop online at brombergs.com.
All right, UAB goes to 1-3. Navy takes them out 41-18. Navy's 4-0, by the way. This kid, Blake Horvath's incredible in this offense. 9 of 11 passing, 225, 2 touchdowns, 13 carries, 84 yards, another touchdown. Navy runs 42 times for 227 yards. UAB had it going on the ground, 43 carries for 193 yards. Jacob Zeno threw for 202, a touchdown, but 2 interceptions. And those turnovers costly as Navy gets the win. They're protective. And Tulane comes up next. And a lot of folks believe Tulane, best team in the league. So another tough one at noon on ESPN Plus this weekend for Trent Dilfer, who joins us later this week. All right, so we stay with Auburn and Alabama over the weekend. A lot of you want to give your feedback. 800-239-9569. CJ was going to go to earlier, who was there in Auburn. CJ, welcome in. Oh,
hey,
Oklahoma fan. Sorry, yeah.
Sorry, my voice is still a little, scrabbly from the weekend, but I'm from Oklahoma. I live in Birmingham and have since 2016, so I was very excited when the switch happened. As a fan, I just want to say thank you to everybody down in Auburn. That was one of the best experiences I've ever had anywhere on the road. My sister and her husband have a RV at University Station, and if you guys from Auburn know what that is, everybody in that area was absolutely amazing, and just made it a great environment and a great atmosphere for me to take my son to his first college football game. And just a heartfelt thank you to all. I know it sucks for Auburn fans you lost the game, but thank you from an Oklahoma fan for the experience you helped cultivate.
Man, that's awesome to hear, especially taking your kid to their first game. That's tough to beat. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Glad the Auburn people treated you right, CJ. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Yes, sir.
All right, Greg's in Russellville. Wants to talk Auburn. Welcome into the show, Greg.
Good morning, man. Thank you. I was going to talk about Alabama, but I was going to talk about the Auburn. I got a really good fan. A good friend of mine that's an Oklahoma fan. And I talked to them on Friday, and I asked them about the game, and they almost nailed it. Really, he said, "Well, we've got a pretty good defense." He said, "But if Auburn can score 20 points, they'll win the game." Because he said, "We're not going to score." He said, "We've got too many receivers out, and even if we had those receivers, we're not a good offense." And he said, "We'll make a couple of plays," but he said, "If Auburn can score 20, they'll win." And I just thought that was, coming from an Oklahoma fan, he pretty much nailed it, really. Other than that interception at the end, Auburn wins that game.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people think. Defense gave up a couple big plays. You had a dynamic quarterback, had a couple nice runs. I thought Seth Littrell called a better game too, Greg. And not that it was all successful, but he gave his young quarterback and then moved the pocket a little bit more, did a few more in the read game. Didn't keep the quarterback as stationary as I felt like he did against Tennessee's defense last week, but I thought Durkin had a good plan. And outside of, again, you give up a 60-yard touchdown, whatever it was, you're up 5, I think, Like,
Yes.
why are you playing man there? Like, I just maybe that's normal.
Well, I mean, why are
I-
you allowing a one-on-one? But here's the thing: which of Auburn's receivers were you super concerned about?
Or Oklahoma's, you
Like,
mean?
that's-
Yeah, shouldn't have been many.
That's what I meant. Sorry. Like that group is a mash unit, man. It's not like they'd been able to create consistent separation all day. Like I get what you're saying. Like, yeah, why do you have a guy on an island? Like, especially when your coverage really hasn't been great all season. So I can understand, hindsight there, but at the same time, like, which of Oklahoma's receivers did you feel confident in winning a one-on-one? Because that's the other side of the equation. It's like, all right, well, yeah, I trust my guy. I think my guy will hold up because their guys aren't very good.
It's fair. All right, let's switch over to the Alabama game. Some folks have feedback they want to give on that. Chris is in Birmingham. Welcome into the show, Chris.
Hey guys, about time! My goodness, we got that was a long therapy session for the Auburn fans. My goodness. What can I say about the game? What a game! Quite honestly, the best game in the world. I kind of want to see him play again. I mean, honestly, to think the progression of Jalen Milroe is amazing. How I was his biggest hype man in the offseason, and now it's Heisman talk. And hey, I recall I did say that Kentucky was eventually a late playoff push. At least they got that upset. And I will say that Vanderbilt is a very, very upset team. So Bama might want to be on their P's and Q's and not let the second half fall apart though.
Thank you for the call, Chris. Vanderbilt is going to get a few teams this year. It would take a monumental performance for that to be this week. But I am going to be interested to see how they manage certain things. And I'm interested to see how Alabama manages such a massive win mentally and then going on the road the next week. That's a tough task in and of itself. Cindy is in Chicago. Welcome back into the show, Cindy. How are you?
Hi, guys. I am still catching my breath. It's like, I don't know if my heart is out of my throat yet. The beginning of that game had to be a fever dream for every Alabama fan. I mean, just a fever dream. And then I'm sure a lot of us started thinking, oh, my God, Cam back. This is going to be a Cam back game. So that was pretty horrifying. But, at one point in the third quarter, I kept thinking if we could just get to like 6 minutes in the third quarter and be up by 3 scores, we'll be okay. We'll be okay. We'll be okay. And we really weren't. So, but I think it was a couple of good things from the way Georgia responded, and kudos to them. I think it was really great for Alabama to be forced to come back to win that game after having everything go right and then everything go not so right. And lastly, I may be looking at this very oddly, but I feel like for the DBs in the second half of that game, our inexperienced DBs to have to go up against a future first-round draft pick quarterback who is being forced to throw on almost every down was a baptism by fire that will stand them in good stead as they move through the season. Xavier Brown gives up a big play. Then he knocks the ball away. Then he intercepts. That's learning on the job. And I was really, really proud of them. And as I said, I think that is kind of like a silver lining to the way the game played out.
No, there are a lot of silver linings to this one, I think, Cindy. And you learned that how to put a game away. You learn how to offset a comeback. I'd be interested on the other side, Greg, talk to you about Georgia's plan and kind of what that was like. We'll spend some time on that next right here on McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Kublik in the morning. Monday, September 30th, 8:50 a.m. on Jocks 94.5. Get back to some of your feedback, some of your calls here in just a moment. But I want to go to the Georgia plan offensively, Greg. Your thoughts on it, what it was kind of coming out, and then what it morphed into later in the game.
Well, first and foremost, I mean, I like the aggressiveness early. I mean, shoot, second play of the game, Arian Smith gets behind the defense. It goes right through his hands. I mean, that's a game changer potentially. I didn't think they ran the ball very well at the beginning at all. I think ETN started to find a couple things. I thought their run plan was just okay. I mean, obviously you're forced to abandon it pretty quickly, so you're going to naturally become one-dimensional, but I thought their plan was fine. It didn't bother me too bad. I thought Carson was really off in the first half. Just not seeing things. Like the second interception was just flat out inexcusable. Like I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know what he was seeing. I don't know what he was looking at. I don't get it.
It was almost like one of those where like he tried to re-grip it, like he knew he shouldn't let go of that ball, but it was too late, and he just I mean, it was nonsensical.
Well, I mean, shoot, dude. I mean, it's like, I mean, he hit the linebacker in the jock strap. I mean, like that's like a really, really big miss. I mean, I can understand throwing a pick, like the linebacker jumps up, makes a play, right? Like that happens. But I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, that was as bad a throw as I've ever seen him make. He made another bad throw on the play before the safety where he had Lovett behind the defense and underthrew him. I don't know what the heck I don't know what the deal was. He was seeing ghosts. He kind of picked up from where he was there in the game against Kentucky, just off the mark. And then in the second half, I thought he started to play really well and started to make some throws that you kind of expected him to make. I mean, he's a really talented guy. I do think you can get to him. I think if you hit him, you can get to him. The first interception, by the way, Arian Smith didn't get the check. But I looked at it probably 5 different times. He never signaled anything to Arian Smith. So unless it was like a built-in check or Arian's supposed to get it from the sideline, he's checking tunnel screen, and Arian runs like a slant. So, Damani Jackson's right there waiting for it to be thrown right into his lap. So that's just kind of an unfortunate one. But I don't know if that was on Carson for not communicating or if it's up on the sideline for not communicating. But that was a bad mistake. But as the game went along, he really settled in. I thought he made some great throws down the field. I thought his receivers did a really nice job of adjusting to it. A couple of plays here and there, and it might be a different outcome. Like they got flagged for an OPI a couple times. I thought Bama really kind of had a great plan early, but Bama also, they played 30 snaps. They defended 30 snaps in the first half. Okay. And Laura, we talked to her 45 minutes ago. You know how many snaps they defended in the second half? I'm not talking, everyone's going to look at the play count. That doesn't count. I'm talking about plays that were defended when you exclude penalties and all these other things. They had to defend 55 offensive snaps in the second half of that football game.
Ooh.
55 offensive snaps that had to be defended. That's a lot, man. That's going to take its toll. So no wonder they got exhausted as the game went along. But, hey, man, Georgia's a good team, and they can take shots. I think they figured out, hey, we're a shot play offense there in the second half, and their guys made a lot of really nice plays.
Absolutely. You mentioned that. That's kind of where I wanted to go with you from the beginning. Shot play offense in the second half. I was going back and forth watching the game. I was like, why are we so all we're going to do is throw the ball down the field? But then you hit a couple of them, and you're thinking, if that's what's there, I guess you keep trying to take it. It didn't feel like there was much else, and I don't think he's going to get enough credit for how tight some of the windows he fit some passes in the second half. I mean, a couple of those third and fourth down throws. I mean, those were bang throws. Easily could have been knocked away and easily could have been incomplete, and he put them right where they had to be. But yeah, man, I don't know what he was seeing early in the game, and it was rough. But to be able to get off the mat from that, because he looked bad, he looked real bad. But he got up, battled, and found a way to bring his team back, and was in a position to win that football game. I mean, you go up late like you did, pretty impressive either way. But I thought we talked about it on Friday, a little more creativity, a couple different things, like show some different things. I feel like it started to lean a little bit too much on Carson Beck throwing the ball down the field late. And maybe some of that was circumstantial. I know when you're trying to come back from 28 points, it's different. But once the game was, back to being one that was competitive, it felt like that kind of never really changed. It stayed with that.
Yeah, they definitely stayed with it. Like they didn't change much. It's just they actually made the plays. And they didn't get the offensive pass interference, the push-offs. They didn't they were able to hit a couple double moves. I mean, the touchdown to score was set up 2 quarters earlier on an in-breaking route that Keon Sabb drove on. They pump it, and he goes over the top. So I thought that they didn't change much. They kind of stayed true to who they were. They got the run game going a little bit there in the second quarter and third quarter, and they finally ended up hitting a few.
Absolutely. A lot more to get to on this game, other games, but we're going to stay with Alabama, Georgia on the other side. Tyler Watts was on the radio call, the former quarterback for the Crimson Tide, with us next. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kublik in the morning. Going to continue talking Alabama's win against Georgia, 41-34 over the weekend. Crimson Tide goes to 4-0 on the season. Georgia goes to 3-1. Another thing that does over the weekend, Greg, is pushes Alabama to number 1 in the AP poll. They get 41st place votes. Texas 19, Ohio State 4. Are you good with that? Coaches poll keeps Texas number 1.
I would have Bama number 1. They have the best win. I mean, I like to value best wins. I think Georgia's the best one-loss team, so I would have Bama at number 1.
Yep, it's I think fair when you think about what they've done, what they've accomplished, and just sort of how they got there. Tyler Watts was on the call for the radio broadcast alongside Chris Stewart for this game. I haven't seen. I know some of the videos are out there, but I haven't even seen the videos of you guys on the last couple of touchdowns, both Georgia's and Alabama's. I can imagine it was a little bit of excitement there in the booth with you guys, Tyler.
Hey, I broke Cardinal sin number 1. I walked over Chris Stewart's call, but I'll be daggum. I couldn't help it, man. I was fired up because that sucker was starting to slip away, and you got the one-on-one ball in hand, about to go at least tie it up, and you get the interception. Xavier Brown gets the interception. So I kind of went nuts and lost my composure a little bit. But that's okay now, right? I'm not playing anymore. I don't have to keep my composure.
No, I think it's fair. That's kind of what you're supposed to do. It's the Alabama radio broadcast. What were your thoughts when you started to see Georgia begin to mount that comeback?
Oh, a bunch of questions. And I actually have a question I want you to pose to Roman Harper here this evening. It was a stat was given to me by somebody after the game that although Alabama runs a lot of zone, 70% of their snaps this year on the defensive side have had at least some man concepts attached with them. I want to know, and this is me continuing to try to learn, okay, why are we not redirecting receivers at the line of scrimmage when we are going man? And you think about some of the third and fourth down conversions that they were able to get free releases on and hit little easy slants, whatever. There's a reason for it. And I'm just curious. I want to know those reasons because I'm still trying to learn as well. But definitely a tale of two different halves. You got to think about this, though. Georgia punted one time, I think, in the second half. They were committed to going for it as long as the down and distance allowed them to on fourth down. And they were able to maintain some drives and kind of get some rhythm going as a result. And you just alluded to the 55 snaps there in the second half. And you got to find a way to get off the field. And Carson Beck, believe it or not, was able to do a lot of damage with his legs because we had him third and long on several occasions, and him scrambling, making it a 4th and 2, 4th and 1 situation allowed them to continue drives and put points on the board.
When you look at how the offense played and just how well they played in the first half and some of the different formations, trading tight ends, motions, outflanking the defense with jet sweeps, getting the running backs involved when they saw man coverage, it was an absolute clinic in preparation. That team was ready to play from the second they got out there on the field, and they executed at a remarkable rate. So just knowing that that's your head coach and that's the type of preparation they're going to get going into a big game like that, how comfortable did that make you feel?
Well, you always feel good about the personnel that they have on the field and knowing that you can adjust and kind of take advantage of whatever a defense is going to do. And one thing that all defense is going to have to do, and Coach Saban alluded to this in the show, in the pregame show, was you have to defend all 11 guys on Alabama's offense. I mean, everything basically is option football with the running game because you always have to take into account Jalen Milroe. So many of those speed sweeps, they're read options. They're well executed up front. They block. They leave one defender unblocked, and then they read him. They were able to take advantage of that a couple of times. And that's not to say that we didn't miss a couple of opportunities also because there might have been a time or two, especially on the jet sweep, where the ball should have been given and instead it was kept, and you don't convert on those situations. But this is obviously a very relaxed football team. They're confident, I think, because of the success that they had and the growth that they had last year of understanding what they're capable of. And now they feel that they have all the pieces that they need to really be competitive in every game.
Greg, what are your thoughts on where Tyler was going with that? 70%, some sort of man concept, no really redirecting at the line of scrimmage in man, and maybe like third and mediums. What have you seen on that? I'll ask Roman tonight. I do know that Roman kind of debunked the what did the Georgia kid say after the game when he was like, we thought they were going to play too high and they ran man, and Roman was like, I don't know why he thought that. It was in our group text, so I'll ask him about that one tonight too.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I do know that in modern coverages, it's a little bit more gray area. Like zone becomes man very quickly, just because of kind of how things level up. Like when you really look at Georgia, like pattern match principles, like pattern matches is man, but it's kind of zone too. There's a lot of gray area where it's not quite as black and white, but there was more man played in this game, I felt like, than I've seen from Bama from the get-go. And then as far as pressing these receivers, these guys are veterans, man. Like Arian Smith's a veteran, Dominic Lovett's a veteran, Dylan Bell's strong as an ox, so press won't matter to him at all, and Colby Young's 6'3", 220. So I think against these receivers, they're just so good. I'd rather play a little more catch technique as opposed to rerouting and jamming them. But I think it's a fair point. And maybe I think, too, the problem with these guys in a big game like that, you press them and you miss at the line of scrimmage, they're behind you immediately. So I'm okay playing catch against this group in particular. But against teams like Vandy this week, like, yeah, press them, disrupt them, crush the timing, and I'm good with it.
Do you play a lot of man with what the quarterback's capable of this week? We're getting way ahead of ourselves here, but I'm just asking.
I'd play man. The better the player, I am of the belief, the better the quarterback, the more man you play. Like, the more average the thrower, the more zone you can sprinkle in. That's my own personal defensive philosophy. The better the quarterback, I want the tighter the windows, the more disrupted those windows might be. So that's how I believe in it.
Like as a runner, what he's capable of.
This week I'm playing zone.
Yeah.
But you can play zone and still press the wide receivers. So I'm great pressing the wideouts this week, but I would not be living in man coverage against Vandy.
Tyler, what were you thinking after the first couple of Alabama drives, jumping on Georgia the way that they did? Like when you were seeing just that offense seemingly look like it was unstoppable.
Boy, they did a good job of really pressuring what Georgia wanted to do. And they forced Kirby Smart, and I was talking to Damian Square and Christian Miller during the game about this, is they were forcing Kirby Smart to do what he didn't want to do because of Jalen Milroe. He wants to play man on that side. He wants to be aggressive. He wants to defend the run versus with 5 or 6 guys. And because you're adding the quarterback, he had to get out of that. And he didn't want to, but he had to because it was his only chance. But everything was just working. And sometimes I thought the offensive line play was really good. They were aggressive. I was really concerned about Caden Proctor being able to hold up, but I thought that he played well, especially in the pass protection game. But Jalen Milroe, his processing has gotten so much better over the last 12 months. He's really starting to understand what the defenses are doing and taking advantage. He's not pressing. He's not trying to make the big play when it's not there. And to me, that was kind of the key in this game. I saw him anticipating routes coming open and knowing where he was going to go with the ball as he was taking pressure. And that's just not something that we've seen in the past. So he's really taken a step forward in that area.
He certainly has. How would you assess I guess just the receiver position as a whole based on preseason expectations? Like, it's easy to now see what Ryan Williams has become, but he's just I thought he'd be good. I had no idea he'd be this good. The receiver position was a legitimate question mark, I think, for most of us coming into the year and what the pecking order would be. But now that we've fast forwarded 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, I mean, this group is as good as any in the sport, it seems like. So what's your perspective on that?
Well, I think coming into the year, though, honestly, I thought this had a chance to be a much better receiver room than what it was in the previous year, simply because last year you didn't have any explosive guys that could really stretch a defense vertically. You had a couple of guys that could take advantage of some coverage situations, but no one that could just flat run by somebody. So even just having that threat with Ryan Williams was going to open up other opportunities for other receivers. Jeremy Bernard has had an outstanding year as a result of Ryan Williams having so much emphasis put on him. And some of these other receivers, look, and at the end of the day, they're simply just catching the ball. And you talk about it all the time. When you're open and the ball hits your hands, you got to catch it. And right now they're doing that. When you're able to do that, you extend drives. So, yeah, this is a very quick twitch receiving room that when they get the ball in open space, they're catching it, but then they have an opportunity to advance it by making a guy miss.
Tyler, have you had any conversations with Jalen or Kalen DeBoer on why that confidence is so different, or what do you see as a quarterback that you feel like is allowing him to sort of blossom the way that he is with that confidence?
I honestly just think it's experience. The growth pains that he went through last year are now paying dividends. And towards the end of the season, he started having confidence in what he was doing and his ability to go out there and make plays. And we always talk about it. When you doubt yourself a little bit, when you don't really understand what's going on, the speed of the game is catching up with you, and you can't process and play to your full potential. Well, now he's understanding pre-snap and post-snap, and so you're seeing the true athletic ability come out. Confidence is everything, and knowing that you're the guy, knowing that you can make things happen, I think that that's really where it starts and where it ends. He's just a confident player now because of the success that he's had towards the end of last year and throughout the beginning of this season. And there is no doubt in my mind, though, the concepts that they run on the offensive side of really stressing defenses in multiple ways helps clear up the picture tremendously.
Well, Tyler, we appreciate you. Oh,
Finally, Tyler, I'm sorry. Yeah, finally, buddy, when you kind of fast forward and you think about, hey, the killer instinct in the second half, hey, let's kill them. You know, we're up 30-7. Like, let's come out and just put this game away and let's kill their will early. The fact that didn't happen, is that at all concerning, or do you feel like, hey, this is all part of learning experience and you really just want to give more credit to Georgia?
Well, you can definitely give a ton of credit to Georgia from the standpoint that we were +3 in the turnover category and only won by a touchdown. I mean, that's something that they can say, hey, we're better than them. But at the same time, yeah, you have to find a way to – and I always put the emphasis on the offense has to take over the game. You can't expect the defense to win it and hold on to a 20-something point lead in the second half. You have to find a way to be able to run the ball when you need to, break tackles, take one-on-one guys, and advance the chains. Jeremy Bernard catches that ball in the first possession on the third down conversion. You never know how that game ends. But at the same time, it's not always bad to hold on and win a game like that. Sometimes you can get a little overconfident if you run a team off of the field. You get a false sense of, hey, we're better than we actually are. So sometimes fighting for it long term is not necessarily a bad thing. But when push came to shove, both sides of the ball made plays when they needed to secure the victory.
Tyler, thanks for hopping on, man. We always love having you in on Mondays. I'm guessing just quickly that environment has to rank towards the top that you've been in.
It was definitely excited, and with now the expanded playoff, everybody wondered if it was going to have as much emphasis. But there is no doubt in my mind that was one of the better environments that I've experienced there in Bryant-Denny Stadium.
Absolutely. We'll look forward to catching up next Monday. Tyler, thanks for hopping on, man.
Thank y'all.
There you go. Tyler Watts, color man next to Chris Stewart for the Alabama radio broadcast, joins us each and every week right here on McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. So a lot more to get to, not only in that game, more on the Auburn game, more on some other SEC games nationally that we need to go to. Begin to discuss a few of those. First, I want to tell you about your CBD store. If you're having trouble maybe sleeping at night, if you're having trouble focusing throughout the course of the day, arthritis, anxiety for you or your pet, your CBD store can help. Largest brick-and-mortar CBD retailer on planet Earth. They focus their attention on being the best plant sciences company out there. Hundreds of different extracts and plants, and they work hard to find the ones that work best. First company to have USDA-certified organic oil supplements. So if you're looking for something to maybe help you with a little bit of weight loss, the Trim by SunMed is on the shelves now at your CBD store. Visit one of their 4 locations, Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cajun Cleaver, Trussville just off 459, and now downtown in 5 Points. Your CBD store where good health hits home. All right, back with a little bit more on other games around the SEC, including the one that McElroy was on a call for, Kentucky's upset over Ole Miss, right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. A lot more college football to get to across the course of the show today. And we've spent a lot of time on Alabama. We have spent a lot of time on Auburn. A couple other games that I want to get to. Before we start getting to those games, G-Mac, tell our listeners how Polar Bear Service can help them.
Well, Polar Bear Service is the one-stop shop where I've been leaning on and trusting the amazing, amazing professionals at Polar Bear Service. And right now it's between seasons, so you want to make sure that your comfort system is in top working order, ready for the changes that are on the way. Make sure it's running properly with a checkup from the experts at your HVAC specialists at Polar Bear Services. They're their independent trained dealer. They can help you with all types of electrical work. They can do whole home generators. They can help you with plumbing. They're serving all throughout the area in Birmingham, Anniston, Huntsville, Tuscaloosa. So remember, if you have a problem with your electrical, plumbing, heater, air, just pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. That's 497-BEAR.
All right, let's quickly go to Michael in Hoover. Wants to talk Auburn, and then we'll move on to Ole Miss, Kentucky. Michael, what's on your mind?
Hey, guys. How different would it be if Hank Brown had been in the game versus Tank Dorn? Do you think we should throw an interception or what?
If who would have been in the game? Hank Brown?
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure you would have been in that spot because the interceptions probably would have come in the first half. So, thanks for calling. Let's move on to Kentucky and Ole Miss, Greg. I thought there was maybe one path for Kentucky to be able to get this win, and it went about exactly the way that it had to go. I mean, just a sort of a slugfest, slow it down, physical football game, force Ole Miss into mistakes, obviously utilize that experienced defensive line, be able to pressure the quarterback. What did you see that you thought allowed Kentucky to be so successful in this game?
I kind of like what you said. I thought it was a bad matchup for Kentucky. Partly because I just think Ole Miss's tempo is really, really tough, and Kentucky's not an outrageously deep team. They kind of play with who they play with, and they're decent. Like, they can go 5 or 6 deep, but the drop off from Deion Walker to the next guy is pretty significant. So I didn't love the matchup for Kentucky coming in, but the execution was absolutely perfect. I mean, I don't know if you could ask for better execution under the circumstances. Now, here's what they basically said they needed to do. They said they needed time-consuming drives. They needed to limit snap exposure for their defense. They had to put things together offensively, convert third downs, run the football, what have you. I mean, they had a 7-minute and 30-second drive in the first half. They had a 6-minute and 27-second drive in the first half. They have a 5-minute and 42-second drive in the first half. I mean, these are absolute backbreakers for a tempo offense. Now, in the second half, it became a little more human. They had one 4.5-minute drive, and the rest weren't very good. But their defensive line completely dominated Ole Miss's offensive line. I mean, that was the biggest takeaway, is that we had thought that this group along the offensive line was better. And not just a little bit better, like considerably better. That was not the case. And you had been saying this for a couple weeks now, like Jackson Dart's taking a lot of hits. Jackson Dart doesn't have a clean pocket very often. Jackson Dart is having to occasionally run for his life. And sure enough, against the first real defensive line they faced, that was the group that won the game for Kentucky.
Yeah, it was a strong performance up front for them. And two, you mentioned that tempo, Greg. Sometimes when you're not getting those first downs, when the run game's not going, it's hard to keep the tempo alive. And
No doubt.
I mean, Ole Miss got a couple explosives. You know, they found a couple open receivers, but even then, it felt like there was pressure on Jackson Dart. He had to step up and deliver those footballs. Trey Harris was, amazing again. I mean, that guy's just he's insane, the kind of season that he's having, how productive he's been. But I was most impressed. Like, the pressure was phenomenal, but how they stymied that Ole Miss rushing attack with the different options that they give you and how they can run it, and then trying to use that tempo on top of it, I thought that was the most impressive part of maybe Brad White's plan.
That was great for sure. I think being able to limit the rushing game was big, but they also did an amazing job tackling in the open field. Like, I don't know how many times Trey Harris is one-on-one with a secondary defender. And by the way, their best corner, Maxwell Hairston, was out. I don't know how many times Trey Harris was one-on-one with the corner on a hitch route, and more often than not, like, he's going to make that guy miss. And that 3-yard completion is going to turn into a 13, 14-yard gain. Well, it didn't happen against Kentucky at all. So credit to those backup defensive backs who got a great receiver to the ground. He had the fumble. They forced a fumble in the red zone, which was significant. So, yeah, man, I mean, it was kind of like a stars-aligned performance. Like, that game's played 100 times. Ole Miss probably wins 85 of them. But Kentucky just did what they needed to do, and on a 4th and 7, they dropped back and threw a low-percentage pass, and Barryon Brown makes a play. I mean, that was it. So, great performances, I thought, on both sides. But Jackson Dart, too, man, like, I don't know. Like, he, to me, is not in the upper echelon of the sport at the position. I think he's a great player. I think he's a highly productive player. I think his numbers are oftentimes inflated because of the system and then the personnel around him. But the urgency that he plays with, man, I'd like to see more urgency out of him. Like, everything he does is kind of slow and methodical. Whereas when I watch Jalen Milroe or Carson Beck with his back against the wall, like, everything is crazy urgent. Even Peyton Thorne this past weekend, great urgency that he played with. Jackson is just a little bit slower developing. So that's something I'd like to see him work on as he improve, as the defenses that he plays against this year improve.
Yeah, it was a heck of a win, heck of a performance. What does it do for you with Ole Miss moving forward? Like, how do you view them now, knowing what's left on their schedule?
I think they're the same team they've been for the last 3-4 years. Really good against average competition, and we'll see when they play against really high-quality competition. Because there's a couple games coming up. Like, this weekend, buckle up. Because that D-line is going to be ready to rip coming off a bye week with South Carolina. You're going to probably get into a track meet with LSU, and I think they're super comfortable playing in a track meet, so I don't hate the matchup for them there. It's on the road, which would be tough. Be really curious, by the way. That game's probably going to be at night, I would imagine, on ABC, so we'll see what happens there. You got Oklahoma, who I feel pretty good about you being able to manufacture some things against them. And then you got Georgia. So I think they can afford maybe one more slip up, maybe. And even at that point, I don't know if it's a foregone conclusion.
It's kind of like what you said, though, Greg. Like, now all of a sudden this game this weekend looks a lot more dangerous. I mean, Jackson Dart's taking hits against all these other teams. He's going to get hit this weekend. And one of the things that we liked about Kentucky, where they could maybe sort of muck this game up a little bit, veterans on the back end. What does South Carolina have? A bunch of old dudes playing safety and corner. I mean,
I don't think South Carolina is anywhere. I don't think South Carolina is anywhere near as talented at safety as Kentucky is. That group at Kentucky at safety, remarkably underrated. They're very solid. I think Eamon Warri's solid. I think they have good length in the back end, but I don't think their secondary is really crazy talented. So that's the one saving grace, but got news for you. The pass rush they're going to see this week is better than the pass rush they saw last week. And that pass rush gave them some fits. So buckle up. This week's going to be a doozy if they don't come out of the gates and play well.
Yeah, it'd be a tough environment, too, that they're going to face there in Columbia. So we'll see how that one plays out for them. And then a game at LSU. LSU kind of looking like maybe run game's getting going just a little bit. I know it was South Alabama. That's a good offense that they defended well. Linebacker play for LSU is coming along, even with no Harold Perkins. I think they're sort of finding their way. Nussmeier looked good. I mean, you're going to get kind of some of the bad decisions. He tried to force a ball in at one point. Not going to put the second one on him really, but I mean, he's got that offense cooking right now and knows how to work it, knows how to manage it. They beat South Alabama 42-10. Jags now 2-3 on the season. LSU goes to 4-1. Nussmeier 409 yards, 2 touchdowns. Did have those 2 interceptions, and maybe Caden Durham's kind of that guy tailback for LSU. Maybe he can sort of be the one as he goes 7 carries, 128 yards, and a touchdown. Karen Lacey, 5 for 107. And 2, here's the thing with LSU, Greg. If they continue to get Aaron Anderson and Xavion Thomas going in the slot, and they can work the intermediate with those guys, like those are 2 sort of big-time catch-and-run players. We know what you have on the outside. Like Kyron Kyron Lacy's an alien. Like, he's a legitimate freak show. We know Mason Taylor is at tight end, but you get those two kind of work in the middle of the field a little bit and some more high percentage throws that you can turn those into bigger gains, and then C.J. Daniels can be a bit of a move guy. They're gonna be tough to defend. I mean, very tough to defend.
No doubt. I mean, I think LSU's a handful for sure. I'm curious, since you saw them up front, or up close, what are your impressions of Texas? Because I did not get to watch that game. I listened to it, and it just sounded like a very unusual start for them until they hit the big play there not that long before half. So just your impressions of what you saw from Texas up close.
Yeah, let's do that on the other side. I'll give you my thoughts on Texas and kind of how they looked, kind of what they were, because I'm gonna go similar to Missouri a couple weeks ago, similar to Georgia a couple weeks ago. Like, I'm not gonna take a game that was probably more competitive than it should and immediately downgrade a team. But I'll give you my thoughts on them on the other side. First, I'll tell you about Gusty Gulas and the Gusty Gulas group, kind of what they can do for you. They served more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. You can trust Gusty's aggressive and proven selling system. He's got what it takes to attract hundreds of qualified buyers who want your home. He's brokered by eXp Realty. Over 835-star Google reviews. Just go search Gusty Gulas Group and you'll see for yourself. Call 205-542-1996. And the Gusty Gulas Group wants to help you start packing to get into a new home today. You want to know your home's value? Pick up your phone, go to GustyGulasGroup.com, button at the top right of your page. You smash that button, and you're going to find out right away just how much your home could be worth with very little information, and see what the Gusty Gulas Group can do for you. GustyGulasGroup.com or 205-542-1996. We'll talk a little Texas, Mississippi State right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kublik in the morning. 10:34 a.m. Monday, September 30th, right here on Jocks 94.5.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC Dealer of the Year, the national champs. They're right up the road from us, right up there in Coleman off I-65, exit 310, Highway 31. It's amazing to go and see all the deals that they have on the lot, like a GMC Sierra 2500 HD. This is a beautiful truck, as nice as it gets. It's a Denali, $90,000 plus is the list price. Not only can they take $7,000 off a truck that most people can't even get, taking it down to $83,000, they'll also give you 5.9% for 84 months. So you not only get a great price, but you also get a great rate if you choose to finance that beautiful vehicle. So go take the short drive up to Coleman. Go see Andy Cole and Jonathan Yeager. 75% of their business is repeat customers because you have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. So go take the short drive up to Coleman. You can also shop online, have delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com. Bill Smith Buick GMC. We are professional grade.
All right, so Texas gets past Mississippi State. Not overly competitive, but I tell you what, Greg, Lebby and the boys had a nice plan early on. Texas had 5 possessions in the first half. They slowed it down, and talking to Lebby on the field for the game, he's like, listen, we've got to run the football. It's like we got to protect our quarterback. I thought he said something kind of cool. He's like, I got a little bit obsessed with the system sometimes this year and not necessarily the player. I thought that was pretty cool just to kind of hear him saying that, hey, I might not have been calling things the way that I needed to for my guys, but I was just calling things the way that I felt I needed to for my system. And I don't know, I thought pretty good self-awareness there from Jeff. But they found a way to get the run going a little bit, and that's against a good Texas front. And like I told you earlier, Sark did mention going in, hey, this will be one that is probably going to be a little bit of call and run first, so not necessarily looking to just get into the best play or the exact right play a lot of the times, but wanted to find a way to just come in there and say, hey, let's get Arch comfortable. Let's go out there and move the football. But as things started going on, it's first off, State's defense is just not SEC ready right now. It just isn't. But they've got so many weapons all over the place. Jaden Blue's having a hell of a year. Quintravion Weiser looks like he might be a guy that they can really lean on at tailback. He's got some juice. But it's just the receiving core, man. Like they just don't stop. I mean, they just got guys that can just continue to go, and it doesn't have to be deep down the field, but they're going to take their shots because they're going to probably have them. You got a good offensive line. You've got really good defensive line. You got tight ends that can help some. And I think you have 2 quarterbacks you can win with. I mean, Arch continues to just get better and better and better. He can make the throws. Technically, fundamentally, I think he's really strong. He's just got to, understand. He told us a story, Greg, when we met with him, and he said, my grandfather and grandmother called me before every game. And he said, my grandfather tells me, stop taking hits, get out of bounds, like slide. And kind of laughed because he doesn't. He's not afraid to stand in there and take a hit. And he takes big hits, and he just pops right back up. And I kind of told him, I said, I don't know how many highlights you've seen, but that's kind of odd coming from your grandfather because, he never went out of bounds. And he kind of laughed, and he was like, no. He's like, I tell him that all the time. He's like, you never did that. And so, but kind of cool to hear that sort of conversations that they have. But I think they're good, man. I don't know. I still don't know exactly how good the secondary is. Jahdae Barron moves over to corner. I think the linebacker core, like David Benda, can move. Like I think that group is solid. This Colin Simmons kid's off the edge. I'm just telling you guys, you need to know who number 11 is for Texas. He is going to be a freaking star. He is big time. And Trey Moore hadn't even really gotten loose yet, but he can rush the passer. He's a problem. So I like the defense, specifically the front 7. I do think the secondary could be, I don't know yet, Greg. I think they could be better. But they should be able to get pressure with 4 a lot. And the one concern I might have a little bit is Mississippi State kind of found a way to get some things going in the run game. There are going to be other teams that have different ways to try and do that as well. And if they can have a little more success, can they play a similar style game to what Mississippi State just did against the Longhorns? Keep the football, play some sort of keep away a little bit. But at the end of the day, Texas looked real. I mean, there's a lot about that team. And I'll tell you this, too, that game day experience is legit. It's big time. It's every bit of an SEC venue. They got a freaking carnival going on outside the stadium. I mean, they got Ferris wheels and zip lines. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, you've
how
never
much is
been there.
happening. I had never been to a game
didn't
there.
even think
No.
about that. Oh yeah, no, it's super. Well, once you get beyond the parking, just to park in that circle with like a fountain in the middle or something.
I
Once you
saw
figure out
that,
the
but
parking,
no,
it's pretty,
no,
pretty good.
we went to the truck, but I was told by multiple people there that Del Conte has like raised the ante with like the game day experience, and a couple Texas fans told us like, yeah, it's night and day to where it was like 5 years ago.
Oh yeah,
but
and
man,
you always got to do it at night too. You haven't done it at night yet. When you do it at night, you'll see it's a much better experience than even during the day.
But yeah, I mean, what was going on outside the stadium was like, this is unreal. I mean, it was like the State Fair and Austin City Limits were happening at the same time outside the stadium. I mean, it was nuts. But I don't know. I don't know what your questions are still about Texas, if you really have any. But I mean, DeAndre Moore can get you down the field. Bond can get you down the field. Golden can get you down the field. I mean, Wingo is going to be, me talking about a freshman who's like ready-made right now. He hasn't really gotten the touches to prove what he can be, but like he's going to be big time. So they got to protect the football, cut down on the penalties, and I need to find out a little bit more about the secondary. I guess those are my only concerns with Texas coming out of that game.
Yeah, no, man. I think that they're good. I think they're talented. I think the receivers are every bit as good as I thought they'd be. Secondary, I just don't know yet. Like you said, I mean, but a lot of people thought. I mean, I had people telling me how great Georgia's secondary was. I was like, when did we see them challenged? Tell me exactly what it was about their secondary that you've liked so far. And they got exposed this weekend. So it's hard for some teams to hold up when you got good front personnel. It's hard to hold up enough to challenge down the field. So it might not be something that we know about until Georgia plays Texas. I mean, it might be a little while because I don't think Oklahoma's going to be able to create those problems for them.
They're probably not the team that can do it right now.
No, I mean last year they were, but this year is going to be a challenge unless they get healthy fast at wide receiver. So we'll see. But that game's a couple weeks away, and I don't anticipate many challenges for Texas between now and then.
No, they'll be off before they get to Oklahoma, and then they'll have Georgia.
2 weeks, right?
Yeah, then they'll have Georgia the next week. Yeah. So, which by the way, that weekend in Athens, I know everybody knows like they got Formula One deal. They also have an Eminem concert, a Sting concert, and like the Simone Biles Golden Arrow tour or whatever she's doing, like the gymnastics tour, all in Austin, Texas that weekend.
Wow.
So good luck getting a hotel for that one.
We might be doing that game. That's what I'm like anxious about. Like it's either that one or Bama, Tennessee. So like
you might be staying in Waco.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, well, I'll be in Houston. I'd have to commute via chopper to get there. But man, it's we're gonna find out all we need to know about Texas here 2 weeks from now. I mean, Oklahoma's always gonna play them well. They always do. And Georgia will challenge them in ways that no one's challenged them yet. So where we're at right now is great, but not sure we have a end-all be-all conclusion on what the Horns are.
I'm going to say one more thing about this game before we let it go. Number one, Michael Van Buren's got some ability, man. Like he throws a nice ball. He's quick twitch. He can move. And he showed pretty good poise against a group that can get after the quarterback. They got some receivers, man. Like Kevin Coleman can go. Mario Craver's going to be awesome. Alabama native, played at Clay Chalkville. Like he's really good. They got a good group of tight ends. They're going to find something with this offense soon, and they're going to be a headache for some folks. Now, having to slow it down in this game, not a whole lot. They're not going to have a lot of answers on defense. They just don't have the personnel. Like they can't get their cleats in the ground. They're jumping around too much. Like they're not playing straight up. They get their shoulders turned up front on the defensive line. They get out of their like it's just a lot that's going on up front defensively for them. And they're down a couple bodies in the secondary. But I just want to say this. They're playing hard. I mean, they are, for a team that's 1-4, to play the way that they play, it's kind of impressive to see because most teams, as we know, would be like, nah, we're good. We'll collect our check. We'll play a little bit. If I'm not getting the ball, who cares? But, like, they play their rear ends off. Like, you cannot question the effort. And that's a testament, I think, to that coaching staff and kind of what they're doing. So, all right, that's a little bit of Texas, a little bit of Mississippi State. We have an all-timer for you. You're going to have to wait for it in our bad box score of the day. One thing you never have to wait for, though, GMAC, is your dental care.
That's because Family Care Dental has you taken care of. They're the urgent care office where you can be seen the same day. We know busy schedules are here. The fall is challenging, scheduling around kids, you got activities, you got practice, you got all this stuff. It's hard to make dental appointments a priority. That's why Family Care Dental's there for you. They have appointments on Fridays and Saturdays. They also do routine cleanings that include free teeth whitening, and they're accepting patients of all ages with most insurance plans accepted as well. In Hoover, Fultondale, Homewood, and Alabaster, call Family Care Dental today at 874-9605. That's 874-9605.
I know some of you are waiting for an update for our chosen sons. They will make an appearance, but they will not be the only team. An all-timer. Bad box score of the day next. Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in, being a part of the show. All the podcasts, if you miss any of it, jocksfm.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get yours. You can go check those out there. Always be a part of the show. Check us out on YouTube as well. Search Jocks945. If you miss portions of the show, you can go back and watch it there. All right, so got to get into our bad box score of the day. Before we do that, tell you about Airport Marine. Airport Marine, your boating headquarters, whether you are a professional fisherman, whether it's just something on the side, you got great deals right now at Airport Marine. All the different fishing boats, bass boats, they're in stock now. Pontoons, they've got rows of them. Go check them out at Airport Marine right there in Alabaster. Your boating headquarters here in the state of Alabama. And I know it might not be the time you think about trying to get back on the water here in the next few months, but now's when you can get the best deal. So go check out all the deals, all the best deals, all the great inventory from our friends at Airport Marine, Alabama's boating headquarters. All right, let's get to the best of the worst. It is our bad box score of the day.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
Intentional grounding, offense number 7. It's a 10-yard penalty. I'm talking to America here, excuse me.
That's the game.
All right, we have an appearance from a team that we have seen before, and not sure if you guys will recall that, but we'll get to it in just a moment. First, our chosen sons from Alaska, the Soldotna.
They're the stars, baby.
They're superstars, really.
They took on the Eagle River
Falcons.
Nope.
Eagles.
I was going to say Eagles,
No,
but
that's
I'll say
actually-
Cowboys.
It's a great guess, and they're both wrong. They are the Eagle River Wolves, and
that was right
Soldotna
there. Have we
gets
had
a
them
7-0. Oh yeah, we've had all the teams that Soldotna plays because I think they play a lot of teams twice during the season. So yeah, they've all been in there.
Regular season don't mean nothing, Paul.
Knocked off the Wolves 42-7 to
There we
get to
go.
7-0. Now 16 straight wins for our chosen sons. And how about this? Who else would have a big day against the Wolves than junior running back Anton Wolverton? Stop the music, John. 6 carries, 226 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Bout it.
60 a clip.
Bout it.
40 a clip.
6 carries, 4 touchdowns, 226 yards. He did catch 1 pass in the game, so 4 touchdowns on 7 touches for junior Anton Wolverton. Not a bad day. The team ran 27 times for 421 yards. on the
Ground and pound.
They had a 46-yard touchdown called back due to a personal foul in the game. Your first quarter plays, Eagle River ran 20, Soldotna ran 3. And they were up 14-0. They went 3 for 3 for 49 yards passing on the day. Now here's
Don't they know something about ball control?
Yeah, but I mean when you're busting off 60 and 80-yard runs,
all right.
Are they only doing? See, but that's the situation where you need to put in some RPOs just so that you don't dominate
No,
too much.
You didn't do that.
I see
No,
where
not
you're
today.
going.
Today is not the day for that.
I see where you're going.
Today is not the day. Now, this is where it
Too
gets really
soon.
interesting. Really interesting. Soldotna Saturday is going to play a team that they have seen in the last 2 Division II state finals.
Oh, yeah.
They are 2-2 in those last 2 meetings. They've got Lathrop at 2:00 this Saturday. This is a big game.
It's a big game.
I don't know how to watch it, but if you can find it, let me know. Send me the link.
Easier to
'Cause
find
I
that or
might-
Pac-12 Network.
There is no Pac-12 network.
Well, now,
It's
yes. but
ESPN.
It's
It's
called CW.
ESPN Plus. It's ESPN Plus Plus. So you not only have to get to the first row of ESPN Plus, you have to get to the next row of Plus.
Gotcha.
That's how you find it.
Yes.
ESPN The Igloo is where you can catch that one.
Wow, that's actually pretty good.
Okay. An all-timer for you as the Hardin Simmons College
Frontiersmen.
No, they're the Falcons.
Cowboys.
Close. They are the Cowboys.
Ooh.
Now, we've had North American University in the show before. It did not go their way. And boy, oh boy, neither did it in this game. The North American University.
They are the Prince Hakeems.
What is it?
The Presidents.
They're the Eagles.
They're the Stallions.
Not
And
this
they went
game,
to
though.
They went to 0-4. They were not Stallions in this game.
No, not at all.
They got run through 90-7.
Whoa.
90-7.
Now we're in week 4 now. Hold on.
Oh, and that's where this is going to get really good
Oh,
in just
my.
a second. 24-9 was your first down differential. 276-85 was your rushing differential. That 276 came on 26 carries, by the way. That's 10.6 per.
Whew.
6
First down.
rushing touchdowns for Hardin
Whoa.
Simmons. Your passing differential was 262-91. Hardin Simmons went 20 of 24 for 262.
Ugh.
5 touchdown passes. Now, your yardage differential was only 538 to 76.
Only.
We've seen it worse.
Yeah, that doesn't look that bad.
Hardin Simmons kicked off 14 times for 853 yards.
Okay, there we go. Some yards.
Baby Legatron.
North American punted 11 times for 341 yards. That feels low, by the way. 341 on 11 punts. I'm just throwing that out there. Hardin was 3 of 15 on third down.
That's actually not that bad. They got it 3.
I mean, 20%, that's okay.
We've seen worse.
Yeah.
It won't help them in the Rube Cube.
All right, but they did win time of possession. Even though
When can we do Rube Cube High School?
It's not high school, it's just college.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
There I am sitting there thinking, all right.
Kyle Brown went 18 of 20, 257, 4 touchdowns, and no picks in the game. Noah Garcia, 7 carries, 94 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. Now, this is where it gets a little bit more interesting, I guess. I am going to give you North American Stallions results for the season.
Mm-hmm.
They went down to Stephen F. Austin game 1, 77-0.
Oh, hell
Right.
yeah.
Okay, shut out.
And then against Wayland Baptist, they got competitive and went down 41-6.
There we go.
Okay, first points of the season.
Conference game.
Gotta put some points on the board.
Then played the Texas Wesleyan Rams and lost 80-0.
Okay, took a step back.
Their D coordinator needs to tighten up.
Maybe the OC
offensive
as well.
coordinator
Yeah.
might have some questions to be answered also.
Special teams coordinator too, maybe.
Just saying. He has scored 7, 0, 6, and 0 in 4 games.
Sounds like Kent State.
Inconsistent.
They have been outscored 170-7 the last 2 games. 170-7.
In real life, not a video game.
North American University, you are a living, breathing bad box score of the day. Congratulations, you made it. You made it.
You made it. You done it.
When they score double digits, it's going to be a party on that offensive side of the ball. It's going to be insane.
When they score, it'll be a party.
Absolutely. All right, appreciate you guys tuning in. We're back tomorrow, 7 to 10 a.m. Are you on Jocks 94.5? A lot more college football conversation coming up next from the guys at 3 Man Front. Keep it locked all day right here on Jocks 94.5.